Welcome. Did this show really just start barely at 11:11? Got a minute late there. For every Uber, the equal and opposite is under, as in Mensch. Untermensch. The concept of forms has recently been touched on in this channel. Plato, Aristotle imagined and debated much over, the perfect chair as they did a perfect man. What else could we compare ourselves to? Somewhere there must exist a perfect chair that all other chairs are going to be judged by. There must be the perfect man somewhere, somehow, that all men, have to have a standard of perfection for comparison. But what to do with the smart bad people? Let's just say there's Uber and Untermensch, and then there are some that are not nice, and they are smart, and they don't care, and they don't nurture. Would it end up with, having a type of a system where people would say no child can be left behind, but they knew that their children and everything else, they would, they were special. But even the other special people were needed to maintain a status quo. Would they lie to them and tell them, no, it's only fair that you teach and no child gets left behind? And that's where we're at right now. That's what I just need you to realize is we are going to get into, where did even the concept of, well, you all heard of, Untermensch, the Superman, but there has to be then an Untermensch. And why are we using it as a German term? Because it was the Nazi term. And if you have the courage to stick with this and not be knee-jerk reaction when I talk about it's possible racism, and as a white person check out and say, I've never owned a slave, I don't need to hear anything about racism or cancel cultures. I beg to differ. I think that you should stick around, because Untermensch is what they're turning everybody into. And where did it come from? Well, it's not just a Nazi term for non-Aryan inferior people. It's for anybody that bears the mark of the beast, and that is that they can have a king that's not named Jesus, the God in heaven. Just like the original ones, they had a king and they didn't know it. That's the whole deal. There are no, Nazi terms, eugenics terms, one drop only terms. There are only right and wrong terms. And if there are smart people and inferior people, how do you treat them? As someone who has a standard of do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or the new golden rule, do unto others before they do unto you, because that's what we've been taught. It refers to the masses from the East, the Jews, the Romanians, the white peoples, Poles, the Serbs, other white peoples, and also Russians. It later, also applied to, well, of course, mixed races and black, but not just Jewish, Polish, and Roman. It also, the Japanese didn't qualify. The Chinese didn't qualify. The Italians didn't qualify. Only certain people qualified as not Untermensch. So it is usually incorrect to be considered to have been coined by the Nazis. The term Underman was first used by American author and Ku Klux Klan member Lothrop Stoddard. Look at Lothar there. Diabolical, snidely whiplash type now, but he was the toast of the town. The toast of the town, best-selling books, come speak. And we're going to be looking at eugenics and scientific racism again. He was famous for the book, The Rising Tide of Color, against white world supremacy, as if they didn't realize it was meant to be. Hard but true. Did I even say welcome everybody to Flat Earth Nation? It is a Flat Earth Nation. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way, because I meant to. And that's where it goes. So, very clickbait type title, equally fascinating thumbnail, said the man who doesn't want to consider himself as the guy who had to be all the other students were left behind for. What did you think if you were alive when George Bush said that our new education plan is no child left behind? We're going to teach to the bottom person, everybody graduates, and everybody gets a good job at the end of the year. When did that happen? Recently. I mean, we got the dates. We're going to look at them, but it takes time. And that's what I want to warn you, is it takes time. So it's these people in 1922. That's 100 years ago. They lived in a world where people in the United States were snapping this up left and right. They couldn't get enough of it. This was just one of the books. The Revolt Against Civilization, the minutes of everybody who's not from Norway. And if you're part Italian and like, oh, well, I'm part English and Norway, you didn't make it. Sorry. It was used in the 1999 novel Dear Strickland by Theodore Fontaine. Since most writers who employed the term did not address the question of when and how the word entered the German language into English, Untermensch is usually translated as subhuman. The leading Nazi who attributed the concept of the East European and they were the ones that almost made it. Don't think you made it. Well, I'm not from East European. You didn't make it. You haven't made it. You didn't get the tap on your shoulder. They didn't want you, if you're a woman, to come join their Rebecca fraternity, or if you're a man, one of their many, Masonic, Jesuit, Luciferian fraternities. You didn't make it. They don't care how white you are. You're dead. White man, walk in. Said one Untermensch to another. Early examples of the subhuman concept is from like to study those romantic languages, though Romanus Champol, humorous stories. He can make you laugh. A real Canterbury Tale type situation. Nazi propaganda. This was everywhere. They were trying to hide it. This was in Virginia. They copied their laws from the laws that were passed earlier in Virginia when they had their one drop rule. It's not like they didn't figure it out. One drop. The United States stood by and let other let Virginia figure this all out, passed it on to the world, because the eugenics thing was around the world. It was a weird time. Look at how they have even shaded parts, who's going to wear what star. Well, these Judes didn't make it at all, did they? They knew that after 2 or 3 generations, if this happened and this happened and this happened, well, maybe they could use you somehow. But believe me, if you think you made it, if you're sitting around right now going, I'm white, but you ended up in the United States, you weren't white enough to not have, the Reese's blood, the non-Reese's types blood they needed in the reset for the nobility, or you'd be nobility over there right now. If you ain't this, you ain't shit. And it's too late for them to start repicking the teams and anybody else to go, hey, I could fit in. I never owned slave. All that baloney stuff. We must kill the Ubermensch. They're all stupid. Untar. This is kind of a short Austro-Hungarian propaganda. What was it like just 100 years ago? Maybe you're not a racist. Maybe your mom and dad weren't. Your grandparents were in some way, shape, or form, because nobody can survive propaganda. Not without the Lord. And this was all reset world. They didn't have time to build the world while they were fighting each other, trying to decide who's white. Because this is just the American white United Nations Wikipedia. The people in Ireland right now, if you study their history, they have their own eugenics movement. They had their own idea that they were the best. They didn't want to be called white N-words. Oh, it says that eugenics movement gained only limited purchase. Baloney. The Catholics just redefined their own version of it. Filed under 1920. In the minds of many moderns, the horrors of 100 years ago represent far-off events, wholly detached from our present understanding of the world. They belong in the same middle compartment as the destruction of Jerusalem. Well, I couldn't agree more with that part. As an icon of evil, Hitler is roughly in the same category as Attila the Hun. And we're going to find out Hitler didn't need to write his rules for eugenics. He got them from the state of Virginia in the United States of America. And this is writing about what was going on in Ireland. As of this writing, however, what happened 100 years ago concluded only 13 years ago. Let that sink in at the time of this writing. It was not some far-off event. It was practically only yesterday. The Third Reich concluded ignominiously, even if drenched in the blood of millions, only 70 years ago. This will be within the lifetime of many readers. There may even be those alive who remember it. Certainly, there are still many who heard of it, not in history books. Perhaps because of its staggering scale. The bloodbath of 100 years ago did have causes and contributing factors. Ethical thought as today is manufactured without consent via propaganda. And only those seeking God find out they've been made wise and have been called to do all this seeking of God because they're sheep, not goats. So this guy really he is quite the writer and just loves to hear himself write. But eventually this is, going to get into, must be graded by the page that it was all based on pseudoscientific things, that nobody has a better IQ than any other race. That's why they don't talk about it anymore, because once you get ready, like you're going to take a test and they're going to say how smart you are, people perk up and go, oh, wow, I better study. And discounting the times that they actually give people rat poison to keep them dumb. And by rat poison, I mean, look up the ingredients of rat poison and you'll find fluoride. They love this, don't they? Fish do not know they are wet. They want people, dumb people don't know they're dumb. Living in a world of other dumb people who've been made dumb. But we live in a world of designer babies and don't consider it our eugenic movement here in the 21st century. Is he going to get into how many other countries did it? But religions consist exclusively of opinions and have even less authority than opinions normally do. That's what, ever since Darwin on the origin of species by means of natural selection or the preservation of favored races in the struggle for happiness, no, life. That ended the dispute for if you want to be in the mainstream. If you have the mark of the beast where it's not going to be good enough unless you get a PhD behind your name, it's not going to happen. Well, what's that do for the people that have refused to take, a degree from any college? Like, I've studied martial arts, but I've never accepted even a white belt. I don't want to be, put in a, but hey, white belt, don't take me on. Because we have, our standard is our king. We have King Jesus. What we're going to get into is a lot of things in Judges where people like, Samson, the tribe of Dan, this is going to be a wide ranging couple of hours. What was up with all those guys? I see Ashley's here. I'll put it, if anybody wants to come in and just go hi, and, I feel like if anybody wants to hijack the conversation for 10 or 15 minutes, go ahead. If you feel led, hit this link, come on in. I want to say hola to my friend Ashley, my main man Matt. There's Luther, Yaz Will Soaring. You know him as a talented singer. So there's at least and Angela. I couldn't be happier. We have a couple of lurkers here, people checking in and out, but all of this is going to be there. It is what I have on my mind right now. So let's see where we're going to go. There's your thumbnail. How about that guy? Can you believe I voted for him twice? Had no idea. We had no idea where this was going, did we? Well, let's go. Now let's see what all you smart people want to study. I was reading an article, and it mentioned, you know, as many of the STEM fields, the gender imbalance is quickly apparent. And I was just like, they still do this? I know that I've had some familiarity with it. I know my daughter was in the STEM math classes. I think they have, you know, somehow I think they know smart people, and they still need some smart people. And this was, you know, I just was going like, oh my goodness, now because of all the storms, it's like, well, women can do that too. So they're like, well, I wonder how they're going to sell it. So I thought I would read it. And it was, you know, they bring up the blockbuster Twister with Helen Hunt, who also was, you know, you type Helen Hunt and you'll get the actress, right? But if you write 1880 author, you'll see the real Helen Hunt. She was somehow, you know, 1800 poetry. Wrote about the plight of the Native American Indian. In wonderful fashion. I found some Amanita muscaria mushrooms here at some waterfalls named after her as I was doing a hike with my daughter Shelby and her boyfriend at the time, a young, interesting young man. Not that spectacular, but remote in a beautiful location. Whatever. So that's how we got there. That's what I started, and I was reading this, and like I'm there like, you know what, I haven't taught about the STEM fields. And the reason that's important is because they came into existence with DARPA and NASA. They're the three-headed monster of the 1958 Education Act. I hope we have time to get into that. I was really happy. I was looking up something because it was about DARPA. And there weren't any good pictures. And then all of a sudden I'm there like, oh, hey, look, Pentagon's Brain, the uncensored history of DARPA. And it's even got about the 1950 Education Act. That's what I want to teach about. So I guess the last time I taught on it was 7 months ago.
Went on a bike before. because right now, but somehow they worked it all out, and now it's okay. Just like the burning of the Treasury Department, the Library of Congress in 1812, we were attacked by the English. They burnt our capital. Well, then how do we know what? We didn't have backup places. We were a new country. Oh, we're going to be getting into the Baha'i faith.
Now, yesterday when I looked at this, it had over 800 views or 700 views. And now it's 199. And this is one that had Noah in it. And it had everybody chatting and doing a, oh, weren't we so happy? Wasn't everybody so happy just 7 months ago? And we were getting it all figured out. Seven months ago is a long time. We've been doing a lot. Wow. So much good content, I think. Flash mob, smash and grab. I remember that. Even fingerprinting's fake. I remember that. That was cool. Oh my goodness, back to the Stones. I've been working hard on the Stones. Going to have some good news, Lord willing, very, very soon. Remember, it was about 5 months ago, Rob Skiba died on the clock. This is a very underappreciated video. Started in about 5 months ago. Who are the God-fearers? What was up with the God-fearers? Something. That was a something burger. Here's where 6 months ago, somebody said I was gossiping about them, and I actually made a video, and they said it was gossip. Well, that contributed to some real wise behavior by some people I still haven't heard back from yet that are like, okay, obviously I'm not the crazy one in this situation of them not liking the Apostle Paul, and they should be called out. But still, I guess there's some doubt about whether making a video, playing clips of it, should be considered gossip or not. Let God decide. Look at them. You're still using the word explosives with the EXPLOSIFS in 1913, 1920. We didn't even have our vocabulary's letters figured out yet. 7 months ago. I don't remember getting a lot of views 7 months ago, but I remember, boy, Noah was there. Web Denuvi was there. Everybody was there. You guys were setting up a place where you could stay in touch with people. We were going to be looking at the Giants and everything. And then again, it turned out to be, oh, wait, me and Tommy aren't nice anymore because somebody said something that they had no proof for. And that was wise. And so in the meantime, here we go. I guess it was only 199. I thought it was more.
Sean, how known as Baha'is, spread throughout most of the world's countries and territories. The first of their three central figures is the Bab. He lived from 1819 to 18.
Alive, but I was wondering where does this stuff come from? Where does it come from? And it seems as if it came from
As we jump ahead here,
2001. They quit before
and it's doing the replay. Well, I guess it has to be what it was.
we're going to be proving it once again that we've already experienced the 1,000 years. And now we're looking at all of Scripture in a new way. For many of you, think of it as finding Easter eggs. What more can we say, Mr. Noah, to invite them back?
Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. That is what is STEM. It's the broad term that when you group together science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, the acronym of what they call academic disciplines. There is no universal agreement on which disciplines are included except for these four, because they don't want to forget about psychology. And what about the social sciences or political sciences? Can't we help? What about the humanities and the arts? Can't we get some money? Or is it just, was it ever always for the Department of Homeland Security? Well, come on, you knew it. In the early 1990s, things changed. The acronym STEM was used by a variety of educators. It is through this manner that the NSF was first introduced to STEM. One of the first NSF, not quite sure what that is yet, project to use this acronym, citation needed. In 2021, the acronym was adopted. It must have been a change. Well, they do have a lot of them. Girls in engineering, gyms. They're going to find it. They have, Australia has some of a way to do it. Canada. China, of course. People, there was a time, and they still are looking for certain smart people. Even the Erasmus, who wrote the Bible in Latin for the people that want to get Romanized. Globe lovers love Erasmus. So all of these people have STEM education, and it studies the quadrivium, the four basic arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy, as opposed to only the trivium, the only three, the lower division of the seven liberal arts that comprise grammar, logic, and rhetoric. Your lawyers types, here, twist these words to make them mean what we want them to mean. Okay, we'll pay you good, no problem. Doesn't hurt to study logic and those things. But you shouldn't be that, pat yourself and I learned some logic. Let's go talk psychology. Me smart now. Trust me, I've been down that road. It's a dead end. Because there's only one thing to study relentlessly, and that's the Bible, because you'll never know what you missed until the Spirit shows it to you. Why I am even let me get rid of these things here in case we need them later. some of the things I've been thinking about in the Bible, you know, just in the last, like the tribe of Dan, why they didn't get mentioned in the book of Revelation, why they didn't get mentioned in First Chronicles, and what was going on. Samson was from the tribe of Dan, and it was, you know, pretty early in the book of Judges, and focused a long time on someone that is so sketchy. It's like, are you not, Delilah tried like 5 times to tie him up and turn him over, and he broke the bands and ha ha ha. And then he eventually told her he didn't think he was going to, she wouldn't tie him up this time. Was he not thinking, God did that. And then it was a big mass thing. And in the end, he killed more people, with his suicide than he did in all that other time of tying the foxes' tails together and having burn the fields. That's animal torture too. I don't like it. But it had to happen, and he fell for the wrong girls and stuff. Tribe of Dan. Samson's, those times of, so those could be things that we have to look at. We did, the church did Dan, because Dan was very, when it's listed in the tribes, it has 600,000. Like, I think Judah only had 400,000. They were very populated when they went away. It wasn't like they just, Dan is gone and nobody would notice. It was a big part of their population, but they were making money. They were doing this and that. And it just seemed like that was, that there could be different ways of where they just decided to let themselves be bound as Jews. And church history does the same thing, or we have to watch out for it when they talk about it in the Bible in different ways of Dan's falling away. So now I'm putting Dan as a type of Judas, which means that I would put him as a type of Satan. Judas, Satan, Dan. People that were really not of the promise. And then it goes back to, it was Rachel's handmaid that Dan was born to. And Reuben ended up seducing or being seduced by her, losing the right of being firstborn. And then Judah, because of the qualifications, stepped up and was the line of Jesus Christ. These things are real. These things have to be dealt with wisely. And if you want to believe Tim LaHaye, he's right out there for you. Except he can be disproved by mid-trib rapturists, and the mid-trib rapturists can be proved wrong by the post-trib raptures, by scripture saying, no, boom, boom, boom. Oh my goodness. I see Ella has joined the crew. I'm going to put a link in there, see if Ella wants to say, hey, we've been praying there, knowing a lot of things going on all over the world. It's a shame about Rob Skiba. Another Christian man, Mike Helmick, just recently passed away, died on the clock. Used to be good friends. As a matter of fact, my good friend Luther and I met watching Mike Helmick. And that's how we know each other. And boy, at the end, Mike didn't want to talk to me or Luther. He actually liked Luther a lot more anyway. But he was very rude to him. So let's keep going. Anybody? Yeah, we're studying STEM. So I finally saw this, and it was me. Wonder what else there was. Just watches. STEM 1958. That was the beginning of stem cell therapy also. The MIR has 135. It inhibits cancer stem cell driven medulloblastoma, I guess. Can't see it. And then there is the National Defense Education Act. Our current STEM, that was at all levels. In 1958, the U.S. Congress passed the National Defense Education Act. So you wonder where, this has always been about whatever propaganda you need, we'll take care of it. In this, just in case I didn't look it up. This is how we got our funding. And this is because we were like a new country. Everything was brand new, people. It was like the mafias were in control. We had just fake won, World War II just 12 years earlier, 13 years earlier. President Eisenhower was setting the table for JFK. His vice president was going to lose. He ended up losing by 1 vote per precinct. It was fixed to JFK, held in the bag by Mayor Daley in Chicago. Started the space race. This Defense Act needed DARPA. It needed NASA. It needed STEM. It needed to segregate and find who's the smart people that's going to lead us once we prove the Bible's wrong, but they can't. Oh, no, they can't. So fake McCarthyism leading to the John Birch Society. Don't question why the John Birch loves Appleton, Wisconsin. It's where McCarthyism and those guys were. Hey, it made it easy travel. I was going there anyway. Why? I live there. Nobody that McCarthy ever called a communist was not later proven to be a communist. Did you know that? Everyone he accused, he was right about. And they just had to wait the time so that it could be released in 1998. And guess what? But Sputnik, wonder why they haven't shown me the STEM yet. Cause and purpose. Title IX. Ouch. Mandates that all beneficiaries of the act complete an affidavit disclaiming belief in the overthrow of the U.S. government. Did you know that in 1958? Of the 1958 Educational Act, you had to sign an affidavit, not only in the higher education, also in Congress. If you wanted to go to work anywhere in the government or anywhere that received money, you had to sign an affidavit disclaiming belief in the overthrow of the United States government. Did you know that? I've told you that. I just lost the proof to it. And right here, that's where the links leads to itself in its circular reasoning. Because I used to have it, maybe it's in here. Hallelujah. Let's look for Title 10. Wow, that's Title 5. Title 10. I think it's close to the bottom. Yeah, here's the affirmation. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the United States of America and will support and defend against all its enemies. Okay, well, you have to do that. Where's the part about it being unconstitutional, the takeover, the affidavit? Nothing in this act shall be construed as superseding or limiting the authority of any such agency under the law. The commissioner is authorized to delegate any of his functions under this act, except the making of regulations to any officer or employee of the Office of Education. If administering the title of this acts for which he is responsible, the commissioner is authorized to utilize the services and facilities of the government under revised statutes of the United States. Have to have an annual report on scholarship, fellowship, or other educational programs. Here's under conflicts and exemptions. Where am I at? Oh, it was 9? No wonder. You guys, you didn't tell me it was 9? Oh, I told you it was 9. And then I kept looking. Undertaking the programs of mechanized services. Looking for a firm. The court shall have jurisdiction to affirm the actions. Congress reaffirms the principles and declares. Huh. Now, where did it go? Title 10, Section 101F. Sorry, people. Well, they show it here, but they don't list the one. No part of any funds appropriated or otherwise made available for expenditure under authority of this act shall be used to make payments or loans to any individual unless such individual has executed and filed with the commissioner an affidavit that he does not believe in and is not a member of and does not support any organization that believes in or teaches the overthrow of the United States government by force or violence or by any illegal or unconstitutional methods, and has taken this oath. So that is that smoking gun enough? Is anybody still here? Is that smoking gun enough? That our government has been reset, taken over, and that if you wanted to continue in Congress or anywhere that got money from the tax pool in 1958 for education or anything else, you have to admit, well, we haven't been taken over. It's all good. We're just going to keep rolling. Why would that even come up? Why would that even come up? How recent of a reset? And if someone has been saying for all these years, the winners of the war have rewritten the history and they're telling us what they want, I have to sit back and say, with Tommy, with Randy, what more could we have done? How did this thing get derailed? I don't know, but it's back. And if anybody needed more proof, what more proof, or what part about this proof isn't that from now on, the rest of your life, you're acknowledging that this world's been reset after World War II with the founding of the United Nations and Israel and Muslims, and we're fighting for oil because that's all we've ever known. And it's all evolution. It's all racism. We're white people that didn't do anything wrong, and you probably didn't, but our grandparents did. And the people that hatched us out of these test tube clone babies or whatever this crap is, this had to happen some way. I would not sign an affidavit saying that our government has not been taken over because I couldn't believe that. I couldn't swear to that. And I don't think that any of you should think of it, as saying like, I think that's the mark of the beast. I think that was the mark of the beast then, that their world wasn't taken over, that the Jews, people doing their sacrifices, that they were the good guys, do it like us, and we're going to do it. We're telling you the right way. Don't trust Jesus. We had to kill him for our own good. For our own good. Oh, Ella is going to come on? That's nice. Because I feel like I need some help right now. Let's do something then while we wait.
And a good sign.
What? Even though, take the same footage you just showed and be like, hey, this is the big report tonight. This is what's happening. Israel's
of significant and it decides to aid Russia either financially or militarily. But Vladimir Putin now apparently accepts that Volodymyr Zelensky is the leader of the Ukrainian people and will remain so even after this war. It's a big concession. But he's still refusing to meet with Zelensky one-on-one, at least for now. So does Putin even want a peace deal? Or does he want to flatten Ukraine so nobody can have it?
Aaron. Yeah, that's what he wants.
Dude, I thought of a fun prank you could pull on Chuck Dodd that would still work.
What?
Even though, take the same footage you just showed and be like, hey, this is the big report tonight. This is what's happening. Israel's doing in Palestine. And then watch his report on.
Yeah. So there's not much evidence. So we don't know what's going on. He doesn't know what he just reported, if it's accurate or not. He doesn't know. But that's the way it's being reported. Can you imagine if they reported that way about how what we did to Fallujah, right? You remember that? What we
No.
did to Raqqa,
I
the
don't
way we
remember.
Mosul, the way we just leveled cities and then we called it a victory.
I don't
Man, we
remember.
retook Fallujah 3 times. What more could you have asked of those guys?
Any of those
I know.
things. Let's go crazy.
I know.
So we got that. We looked at that. What's this? Man, I got to keep all this open. Black Star Line was a shipping line incorporated by Marcus Garvey, a Jamaican political activist, published journalist, entrepreneur, and orator. He was founder and first president general of the United Negro Improvement Association and African Community League. They were trying to, make a way in this world. They had gotten away. They had black cities where, they wouldn't be discriminated against. They had lost their right to vote. They had been, they couldn't drink from white fountains, so they got their own cities. They built their own lines. Only really worked for 3 years, and then everything changed. But it was a Delaware corporation because that's where people go in the United States when they need a corporation. That's what Delaware is for. $500,000. That's a lot of money. That was their own money capitalization. They raised 10 million, 149 million, bought ships and started using them. Got infiltrated by paid people from J. Edgar Hoover to discredit them and do some illegal things that brought down the whole organization. Made sure it didn't work. Actively worked against it. Apotheosis of George Washington. Was George Washington really a person, or was he Zeus surrounded by Minerva and Juno, his 2 goddesses, that, he did everything? And the Greek gods, after the reset of 1711, when they came out, they had this set up and said, oh, he founded this country and we've been, it's been up and running. We don't know what happened in your area. And all of them had founding countries like that, the ones in charge, the Rosicrucians. It's all right there. Apotheosis. Look familiar? Except there really was God in the flesh. And they really did try to make it, Greek is Persian is Rome. And they're the ones that want to show you a different way than there's no king but Jesus. And it's not good enough to just go and separate and do what's right in your own eyes. No. What was the 1 drop rule anyway? When was the first time you learned about the 1 drop rule? The 1 drop rule is a social and legal principle of racial classification that was historically prominent in the United States, asserting that any person with even one ancestor of sub-Saharan African ancestry is considered black, not white in historical terms. One drop. The Nazis were actually kinder than South Africa and the United States. We wouldn't let you act in a movie if you had one drop. The concept evolved over the course of the whole 1800s and became codified into the law in the early 1900s. It was associated with the principles of the, you might look white. You might look white, but you're not. You've just been the children of mixed blood that's been watered down, and now we can't tell. Oh, and un momento, I'm going to see that Ella's microphone is live, and now it looks like it is. Hi, Ella, how are you?
Hello, how you going?
I'm doing well. It's good to hear your voice.
Thank you. It's good to hear you too.
How's your boys? You guys had a good summer?
Oh, yeah, we're getting there. Yeah, I've got Jai back home, the oldest boy, with me, and my dad's down here as well. So, because he's fading really fast. Yeah, he's like diabetic and going blind and heart failure, and yeah, not good. So, yeah, all I can do is spend as much time with him as I can,
Yeah.
So,
Tommy went to spend a long weekend with his parents. They still live in Texas, but it's a 10-hour drive.
oh goodness, yeah.
Even the way that Tommy drives at 100 kilometers, 120 kilometers an hour, 85 miles an hour is nothing to him.
Yeah.
And, so he's always wants to go 5-10 miles over the speed limit. And he's still in Texas. He's
goodness,
still
yeah.
in Texas visiting his mom and dad. Now he's decided to stay till Wednesday.
Yeah.
Try to tidy things up and,
It's good that he's able to sit that long and drive now with his back, with that thing in his back.
Right.
Like he's not in pain.
It's working. Yeah, that thing's working. He's doing fine. He's up and at 'em. His dad doesn't have a lot of those things that you mentioned, but he has the dementia.
Oh,
And
yeah.
for some reason, he's lost 20 pounds in 3 months. So that's not good.
No, dementia's really bad. There's 4 different kinds of dementia, and it's really sad to watch people go through that. It's really sad.
Now, I don't know if you watched, but I did like a kind of off-topic, not religious thing on how to make a ceramic water filter. Those Berkey water filters cost like $350.
Yeah.
If you look on YouTube, there's ways that you can make them for $20. It's just a terracotta flower pot that is untreated ceramic.
Yeah.
You coat it with colloidal silver, and then you plug up the hole in the bottom, and it turns it into a ceramic filter that you never have to replace. So if you buy those Berkey filters, you have to spend $80 every 6 months.
Yeah, they're expensive, aren't they?
It is. Yeah. So now there's a way to do it. And so we've made one, and I tried to finish it today, which is why I got like 4 cuts on my hands, and looks like a bomb went off in Tommy's garage, but he's not here, so I'll have it cleaned up by the time he gets back.
All right. Yeah.
So we want to start making, get the message of clean water out too. It's as important, after you've been saved, it's important, to keep our temples all washed and clean.
Yeah, exactly. Because water is the water that we have. It's not good. Like I showed on that video, how dirty the water is. Like once you put that electrolysis through it. I shared a couple of videos the other day. How to make distilled water really cheap at home. I shared a couple of videos, and one was just a normal kettle and using like a plumbing sort of thing you buy from Walmart. It was in America. It was like less than $20. You can make this little thing and make your own distilled water. Because this distilled water here is so expensive.
Exactly. It's $1 a gallon.
I'm not sure how much that works out, but here for a
It's
2
like
liter,
$1 a liter.
yeah, well here for a 2 liter or the 4 liter one I bought recently was $9.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, that's about $18 US. Yeah.
So
they
yeah,
don't.
there's ways to make it. As a matter of fact, the guy, it was from New Zealand that I mirrored his video that was explaining how to make it. And he says that, because he likes to start with as clear a water as he can. He gathers rainwater.
And then distill that. That'd be the best way to.
And then he runs that through his flower pots because, I think we're going to need a couple because it takes like 3 hours to get a gallon.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not that quick.
Yeah. Well, this one I was watching, with the kettle that I saw, you could put it on a campfire. Do you know what I mean? So you don't have to use gas. But the bloke demonstrated it on an electric stove. But, you could just use this normal kettle that you could put on a campfire and rig it up and, just, use wood in the bush. And that way you're not paying for the actual fuel. Because, yeah, the gas here is going up really expensive. It's unreal. Like
some time ago, because I don't remember that, but I was going to ask you, if you, as long as you're here, do you have anything you wanted to add about Royal Rife or 1947?
Yeah. Did you see the video I made the other week about Royal Rife?
Yes. I
Yeah. Yeah. And they're going on about his devices, and apparently you can buy them now, like for $6,000, I think. Or $4,000 was the cheapest one in US. You can buy his devices, but I don't know if I trust them. But
Well, you know what? What popping into my mind right now is that if we could do all these other, like, hey, there's another way to do it. Instead of 300, you can do it for 30. There has to be a way to Royal Rife it on the cheap, right?
Exactly. But they don't want us to know about it because they don't want us healthy. They want us sick, so we can't defend ourselves. Like they're poisoning the water. I was thinking about it before, how like in the Middle Ages, they'd say the water wells were poisoned. This has been going on for centuries, all this poisoning of the water. They shut down, I was reading about Sydney's one with the tank stream, but in England had the same thing. They had this water system that brought up pure water from the ground. And then, like the Thames Water Commission completely shut that system down and use a dam, and you now use that old system for sewage. And we had a similar thing, like a setup here in Sydney. It was called the tank stream that would deliver fresh water, but now that seems to be used for sewage.
Yikes. Oh, some of these, here's your basic unit is a 1600. Your Pro Gen 3 is $2,000. So that's your starting point. Just your machine. I don't know what that entails.
But if you were like electronically minded, I'm sure you could buy the parts, cheaper. Like in China, they have that place in, I think it's Gundong or whatever it is. They have this big tower where they have all these parts where you can go in and buy all the stuff. But we don't seem to have that accessible to us in our countries. Do you know what I mean? Where you can go and buy all the parts you need to build a phone or whatnot.
Hey, if you go over there, now everybody's heard how yummy bat is, but I've heard you don't try it, even if they tell you it's the most delicious thing ever. Don't eat raw bat, okay?
Oh no, I'll pass on that. Yeah. I wouldn't eat it. No.
What's with these guys, huh? The world's
mean-
most powerful microscope. He invented that too.
Yeah, and like he was shunned like Tesla. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they
Like-
made up. You know, there's always something. You know, he gets upset. He goes home, has a few beers, and they say we don't want to listen to him anymore. He drinks beer. He's drunk, and it's like this thing he made by himself. It's like 16,000 parts. He put it together. And even that's like kind of like, wow, is that made up? Is this just hold out there for the few and the proud? I mean, is that draining water here? What is going on?
I mean, is he just another one of the faces to explain the technology? And did he reverse engineer it? Like, did they find it? You know, when they went to discover all the ruins, and you know, did he find it? And then was it his job to rebuild it and get it working again? You know, that's what I question.
You get kicked to the curb.
Yeah, and then he got it working, and you know, he was shunned. You know, that's what I was thinking along the lines, because nothing in the world is new. It's all old, and it's been reverse engineered. Most of the technology has.
And what are you going to do? I mean, at one point in your life, you're building machines like this.
Yeah. And
I
especially through the Depression, how did he, you know, get all the parts and that through that time when, you know, after the Depression and the wars and that, how did he find all that stuff? Do you know?
Right. Somebody had to make these parts. And if it's 16,000 parts, you say, well, I need a piece of metal shaped like this. Who do you call?
Exactly. Yeah. Who's the machinist that's going to make those
Another
tools?
one, but not exactly the same size. You know, just hooking this up. You know, and I know some people like Static in the Attic would go, it's probably easy.
Yeah.
But it's not.
No.
And we can't pretend that this man went from saying, I need this, to here you go. It's like, oh, he's just another guy that built it in his garage on his own and whipped it up and said nobody liked it. And now we can get back and go, oh, we did it more. Well, we shouldn't just dismiss it, but you know, we've got to be skeptical on everything. We have to go line upon line, precept upon precept, and what we take from history, science, the Bible. And no wonder people are going to say, well, gosh, it'd be nice if you could just pick and choose whatever you want.
Yeah. And apparently he was like self-educated mostly. So yeah, I mean, sometimes I question a lot of things with what's been presented.
Well, what do you think about this whole with the National Defense Education Act in 1958? It seems so convenient that we went from a year where, wow, we've got to pass an education act that includes DARPA, NASA, STEM, you know, our search for the intelligence. And then you also have to have, you also have to swear that the government hasn't been taken over, nothing's been changed, it hasn't been an overthrow, and everything continues as it is, or you don't get any money.
Yeah.
That
exactly.
makes. Yeah. And by the way, we're going to start gradually allowing the blacks to start vote again. Wait a minute. Why did we have a civil war?
Exactly. Yeah. We got one of those STEM schools here in Brisbane. And it seems to be only for, sort of the elite. They pull them out of the private schools. And see, the private schools get more funding than the state schools. It's ridiculous. But they pull them out of the private school, and then they put them over to the STEM college at Toowong. And then these people just get sent off, and
Well, and it's weird because, there's a few that are graduating from those schools, in the math and the sciences, but for the most part, their credit has been like people like Russell Crowe. Here you go. You get Michael, the guy from NXS that everybody just loved until he did the whole masturbating, he's one of those Robin Williams guys. I can't get enough of this sex. I've got to forget women. I've got to hang myself. Who knows what's going on in their minds? Nicole Kidman, she's another one, you know.
Well, her father was a doctor. He was a psychologist, and he seems to be a bit involved with some of the stuff that went on with the elite. Yeah,
She's like, she's just smart enough to be dangerous too, you know.
yeah.
I like her. Have you ever seen that movie she was in called The Others? It's scary, but it was PG-13, so I watched it. It's scary.
Yeah, I don't think I have.
Ooh,
Yeah,
yikes.
yeah. But
Well,
apparently she's a transgender.
oh
So,
boy.
yeah. Well, most of them are. I mean, you don't get into those sort of positions unless, you're the opposites to what they want for the system. Do you know what I mean?
Right. So here's the racial purity laws for our country anyway, came out of the closet between 1900 and 1910. It was called the Progressive Movement. There was science and race. Social Darwinism was totally accepted. It was, otherwise, how could Kipling have be a famous poet and still be the author of The White Man's Burden? We ended up with the Jim Crow era. I mean, this part of the historic record, nobody denies, that the heads of the people, Theodore Roosevelt, in a letter to Charles Davenport, who was at that time the head of the Eugenics Record Office for the United States in 1913, he wrote him that in order to prevent race suicide, they got to do a better job of getting the message out. He envisioned the tragic results of this race suicide because there's not enough of the superior race breeding, good citizens of the right type. Those were the ones that needed to be promoted. And that's where our government went. And that's what we've been trying to hide, what they're embarrassed about, because we were, this whole secret merging with the Nazis things that we're trying to expose, that was supposed to be a secret.
Mm.
They didn't want that whole, Werner von Braun ended up in the United States. It was just a series of coincidences.
Yeah, and then Hitler's henchmen, one of them become the head of the League of Nations, United Nations, and then another one become part of another group. I found a few that were, they were taken straight from over there and put into high positions, and basically they haven't lost. It was all just covered up. And I noticed with America, they really do play the race card. Everything is about race. Everything on the news is about race. Like every time I speak to someone, it's all about race. And they've tried pulling that one here in Australia a couple of times. And we're one of the most diverse countries with, different ethnic minorities. They tried with those Canberra protests to, do the race baiting, and people just laughed at them and said, look at us, we're all different ethnics, don't pull that shit. They're trying to separate the people. They don't want people to come together, and that this race card really, really does work well in dividing the people.
Because it took, it's set up. That's why they breathe in between the big pushes. That's why for us, you can have a few Spanish-American wars, Russo-Japanese wars in 1908, leading up to a couple of thousand lost, and then boom, World War I, 600,000 lost in one day,
Yeah.
and then you back off of that. Then World War II, boom, we bombed the whole cities, and that's where we're at right now. We just surrendered to, in a way, to Afghanistan. We didn't lose 4,000 people in 20 years of fighting them.
Yeah, but that was all planned because they wanted the system change with the regime, like they done with Saddam. You know, like with Afghanistan, Russia went in first and broke them a bit, and then all the other countries piled in after Russia took out. It was all about a regime change, and that's the same as like what happened in Ukraine in 2014. It was all about a regime change to get him into the into the European Union and into the World Bank. That's what they're basically about. And I think from what I read is the head of Russia at the moment is afraid of being having done what they did to Gaddafi. Do you know what I mean? It was the same thing there, and he's terrified that that's going to happen to him. He just sacked over 1,000 of his close staff because he's afraid, and I think that's what they're trying to do with him is they're going to, do what they did to Gaddafi, like him, what they did to Gaddafi. So.
Now, what that Zelensky, that's crazy. I mean, he had a TV show about an ordinary man that became president. Now he is the president.
Yeah.
And
he's just an actor, comedian, and some of the videos I've seen him doing. One, he was dressed up in high heels with like a plastic sort of black thing around him, and then dancing and just G-strings, I think it was, all over the place with Freemasonry background. And then another one I saw yesterday, he was running around with just boots on, singing and dancing. He was part of a music group, singing and dancing, running around naked. He's just an actor, like that other president that was an actor,
Ronald Reagan.
Reagan, that's right, yeah.
And they had a couple of famous comedians over there that got elected some time ago. Now, you might tell me if you've heard this song. One of my favorite singers.
Careful you don't get a stroke.
No, he made this video for this channel.
All right. That's the one I was talking about. Yeah, he was dancing around. Yeah. That's the one I was talking about.
Yeah. He's not done yet.
Yeah, and then the other one of him, same group, same band, running around just with boots on, naked in a shopping centre.
Yikes.
Just be careful you don't get a stroke.
No way. That's Aaron. Aaron made
Okay.
AM.
All right. But the music, whose music is it?
He's all about cool stuff in music.
Oh, yeah, yeah. See, music's used to control people.
Right. That's why we got to get that frequency right. Check it out.
See, I can't even really.
Now, I've seen this video so many times, Ella. See this guy in the brown coat? I always end up watching because he's the guy that's responsible to get people out of the way.
Okay, yep.
He's hustling.
Yeah, I've seen that video a few times. Do they have a round table there?
What's that, Ella?
I never noticed that. Did they have a round table at the end of that track? I never really noticed it
No, it
until
did.
now.
It looked like they just had to go backwards. You know, it was like,
Uh,
well, that's enough of that. Go backwards.
looks like it had like a round table, like they turn the old trains around.
I've seen those. I have seen.
Yeah. Yeah. But everything, you know, it's all theatre and just a stage, basically. It's just the same as the shit that's going on here in Australia at the moment. Now they're talking about the fourth one, and now we've got an election coming up, but there's rumours that they're going to make it so for you to get any government payment, you have to be fully, you know,
Oh,
which is totally against the Constitution because Section 5123A stipulates that they can't do it, you know, so I think they're going to try and bring up the Republic thing again because that's the only thing stopping them from doing their plan. They've got to separate us from the crown.
maybe you need a Patriot Act, you know, just so you can change the laws and get rid of your version of posse comitatus that, you know, says to people, well, you guys have done, or we have executive orders. They can just change them on the fly.
Oh, well, they just make them up as they go, as they want, and they just get the Governor General to bring it into power. But that's not how the laws are supposed to be brought about. They're supposed to be brought about before the public, and the public enacts and, you know, agrees yes or no, and then it's supposed to go to the Governor General. But since 1927, nothing's been done properly. I mean, nothing new about this NWO. It's been here for a long time. It's just they're coming out in the public with it, you know, and they've only got one more chance with the Australian Constitution to bring up this Republic vote again, because after that they can't bring it up again under the law. They can't call for it again, so they're going to wait until this baby boomers die out, and then they're going to bring it up.
Right.
They want to separate from the crown, and they're going to go, yeah, because they don't do nothing for us. But when they do that, we lose everything that's been stopping them from doing what they're doing, you know, like it's really conflicting at the moment because we got a state that's really locked down like it was in Victoria, Western Australia, and then South Australia is lifting the mandates, but New South Wales is lifting them and New Zealand's lifting them, and, you know, it's just, and now they're ordering more, and now they're building a lab in Melbourne, and it's
now they're ordering more, and you had just talked about they've been ordering lockdowns, and that's like part of our vocabulary.
It's not going to stop. This is like most corporations have a 5 to 10 year, 20-year plan when they do stuff. This is going to go on for 10 years at least. And then Brandon was saying the other day that we need another a war. Basically, he was saying, you know, like you heard that video where he was saying
common memory, because that's what my dad would be saying if he were still alive. Their answer to everything is, we'll just get a war, because it never affected white people before. Ask the people in Ukraine right now how they doing.
Yeah.
Well, they thought they were white too.
Yeah, but I mean, the definition of white in the elite's book is totally different to what we believe it is, you know.
Well, before we get into it, I want to just show everybody that, you know, despise not the day of small beginnings. Now, I want to show you a video. This video is 2 years old. I believe that when you made this video, your channel had a different name. Do you have any comments on this?
So she gets some cruise. So this is facing the southeast. Let me zoom in from here. I'm not. Oh, cool. Okay, so let's have a bit of work done to sense.
I think that's the one in Newcastle, isn't it?
You see what my position is. that as we go forward, not being classified by the world as either an Ubermensch or an Undermensch, but just a person that, yeah, I've been interested in this a while. This should, in a real world of real people, give you credibility. In my world, it does.
Yeah.
And if people are just going like, well, I'm new to this, you know,
Yeah.
as humans, what do? You know, we find other people and go like, well, what do you think? You know, and so really we're always back to that. And we've been lied to about the most important things. Has there been a cover-up? Well, we just saw you don't make people swear an oath that there hasn't been a cover-up unless there's been a cover-up in my
Exactly. There's been a big cover-up, and yeah.
You don't have women interrupting their lives raising children to make videos like this unless it means something to them.
Yeah, I'm just trying to help show people that we've been lied to, you know.
Right. And why have we been knowing each other for years is because we've been doing the same thing, trying to glorify the name of Jesus.
Amen.
And that's all. We have that in common. That's what is in common. Do you want to just play new audio, or do you just want to talk over this one? Because I'm going to play about 10 minutes of this video.
Okay, yeah. I haven't heard that one for a while, so yeah.
Okay, here, start talking over it. So here's a star for it. Let's just listen.
Yeah, just listen to it, because I haven't watched that one for a while.
Obviously, I used to start for so much has been hidden from us.
This is some of your best work, Ella.
We need
Thank
to
you.
start asking questions and looking for the truth. It's really frustrating. Okay, so doing this again. Okay, a view of Botany Bay as the first fleet entered. Okay, with Bear Island in the background.
Hey, that's me in the canoe. All I could afford.
Betcha that on that island, it's already there. It's just covered up with trees.
I've been reading a book about New South Wales that was printed in the late 1800s, and it hasn't been edited much, and it's really interesting what I've been reading. I will make a video when I got some time.
What's that?
I've been reading a book about New South Wales and how everything happened, and it was first made in the 1800s, early 1800s, and the copy I've got, it hasn't really been edited much to what the original was, so I will make a video about it when I've got some free time. But yeah, I haven't watched this one for a while.
Somebody had some free time when they did the masonry on those walls.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like when the Lord talks, I don't think people realize when they talk about hail, 20 cubits by 20 cubits, what that's going to do when it hits the ground.
Oh, yeah. And also one of the generals that come over to, within the first fleets, he said there was no skilled laborers. You're lucky to have 1 in 10 that could actually do anything, which adds, which
everybody
adds to
that was in Australia, the common memory that they implanted is, oh, they'll pick your pocket, but they're, you're lucky if they know how to ride a horse.
Yeah, and the real strange thing about that is actually there were more convicts sent to America than there was to Australia, The
convicts were running the asylum over here. I mean, nobody was indicted on more financial shenanigans than George Washington. People just need to look up the Yazoo land swindles, and you'll find all you need about George.
Yeah.
Let's listen to some more of this young lady here. Back when you were a couple years younger.
Yeah.
It's almost 3 years old, 2.5 years old.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Okay, so this is the back of it. And cool. All right. Okay, so I'll put that in over here. Okay, let's put scratch there for Newton. Okay, 13 hectares, yeah.
I love those legendary disappearing guns. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they have a mechanical lever that raises it up, and the recoil puts it back down, just in case a lucky shot it would get hurt.
Yeah, and they still got those guns there at Fort Scratchley, and they fire them off, occasionally, but they haven't been doing it much the last few years. I got a couple of
And
photos.
a lot of times they move them onto different platforms like that. Wherever you find the platform where that gun was, there's a tunnel network underneath that mountain that connects the whole mountain.
Oh, of course, yeah, of course. But this one here in Brisbane was used to protect the US submarines. And now I found another 2 forts that weren't even mentioned anywhere online, just by going over the maps in Google, because when you look at these forts, they generally point in a direction. You look at that, see where they're pointing, you'll find another fort pretty close by to it. And I found I think I found 3 or 4 on islands close by.
Yep, they want
that,
to get both sides so they can get you in a crossfire, man.
yeah.
And that's how you get into an arms race. Well, they got a bigger cannon. We've got to get a faster ship, bigger, more armor.
Mm.
And that's what spurred on the industrial age. And yeah, you can always go back to the, hey, break a window. Then, that's going to help the economy. Somebody's got to fix the window, somebody's got to make new glass. Well, that's the wrong way to do it, because you could use all of that energy that took to fix the broken glass and do something else creative and helpful with it.
Yeah.
Instead of breaking something to maintain a status quo.
Yeah, but that just goes to the Ponzi scheme that they've got running with money, because money isn't real money. It's all fake stuff that's just been filled up with a Ponzi scheme. It almost collapsed in 2008. And
that's why I'm looking at it as the mark of the beast. If people can't get into their lives to where they realize this is all just temporary, and they start saying, yeah, for our common good, we need bigger weapons. We need to go to war. We can teach my children how to farm later. Right now it's all about feeding an army overseas.
Yeah, well, I said to my boy, even mentioned it. He said, we can give Ukraine $200 million, but we can't build rehabs or help the homeless.
Yeah, we just passed in 1 week, we're going to accept 95,000 Ukraine people. And we've sent out the word, if you can foster families, if you have a room for them, that's 95,000. If 5,000 Hispanics tried to cross the border right now,
yeah,
white too, they're kind of white. Yeah. There would be a fit.
Hell would break out.
They'll take our jobs. We can't feed them. There's not enough food. And eventually they'll be right.
Yeah. But this is pretty much just setting the country up for a fall by letting these many immigrants in, because the country's already broken as it is. And letting that many immigrants in when there's no work as it is not going to help at all.
The United States has, they don't have an unemployment problem. They have a problem finding workers. They just don't want those workers.
Well, I was watching a documentary about the tomato industry and how China has basically overtaken the industry, and they pay their workers like 1 cent euro an hour. And what they do is they grow all the tomatoes and everything in China, and they make it into a concentrate. It takes 2 kilos of tomato to make 1 liter of the concentrate. So then they put this concentrate into blue barrels, and then they send it to Italy and other countries. Heinz, like all their tomato is coming from China, and people don't know this. And it was all genetically modified tomatoes so that the tomatoes didn't burst open and shatter, so they had a thicker skin. And people don't know that. Do you know what I mean? Like it's...
Well, that's what gluten is. Gluten is the skin on wheat. And, to make it more hardy and resilient to glyphosates. they made it a thicker skin, and the skin is, we used to be real thin because it's not indigestible by humans.
Yeah. Yeah. And my stepfather, he's severely allergic to gluten. He's got some sort of disease, and he has the tiniest amount of gluten, and he's buckled over. He's celiac. That's what it is, a celiac.
Yeah, he must have had a vaccine shortly after eating wheat.
Probably. I don't know. But he can't even donate blood now.
How the theories are that's how, peanut allergies and other things started, is
Okay.
that it reacts to what you've recently eaten.
Oh, didn't know that.
Most people eat peanut butter.
Yeah. Unreal. But, like a lot of people weren't allergic, 50, 100 years ago, like a lot of people weren't allergic to foods like we have now. And now all of a sudden, all these people are just.
You'll find that there's going to be people allergic to Vegemite.
Yeah. Well, it's made from molasses.
Too much.
Yeah, it's made from molasses, Vegemite.
No, I didn't. I know that when they tell you don't take too much, they mean it.
Yeah. It's just concentrated molasses, basically, with few vegetables in it boiled down. The British have a Marmite, which is similar. Like I can eat Marmite, but I don't like it. But they're very similar. I think Vegemite is just a knockoff of Marmite, like Australian's version of Marmite.
Here we have spam.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I can't chat when I've got this app open talking to you. Sorry, everyone. I'm not ignoring you. I just
That's
can't.
okay.
If I go to chat, it'll cut me off. So.
Well, I'm going to play a little more of your video.
Okay.
The fort underwent major redevelopment in the 1870s and the 1880s, become the headquarters for an extensive chain of forts around Port Phillip Heads. Its garrison included volunteer armies, infantry, and naval militia. It was manned on the coastal defence installation consistently from 1883 to 1946. Other fortifications and armaments around the Heads were completed by 1891, together with Port Phillip.
And that looks, look at that picture. It looks exactly like a keep, from the medieval times.
Yeah.
We can't deny that.
But what's the medieval times? How long ago was that? Like those buildings
Right.
are older than what we are told they are. A lot older. There was another documentary I was watching about a little town in Italy. Apparently there was like 50,000 of these villages that were just abandoned. They've been lived in for over 1,000 years. And then all of a sudden these earthquakes happen in the 50s and the 60s. And then a landslide happened in this village. Most of the people immigrated to America, and there's this beautiful village. It's just sad that people can't see what's happened.
I love this picture. Wherever you see, like those fortress, wherever they have those guns, this is what's underneath the mountain.
Yeah, well, the one at Newcastle, I know for a fact it's got tunnels like that because I've been in them when I was about 13-year-old. They used to have the tunnels open. You could pay. It was quite expensive to go in, but you paid. And we went walking through all of them. They go up to 12 miles in some direction. And we spent all day down there. And now you can't even get into the tunnels. It's all closed off. We went there a couple of years ago. I was going to take my son, but we couldn't get in them.
Yeah, it was a way to make money. Now it's not worth the questions going like, wait a minute. My grandpa ran a 20-mule team in South Dakota because he was trying to get free land, but he couldn't make it the whole 7 years. That's a lot of work just harnessing up 20 mules every freaking day.
Yeah, a lot of work. But see, they got that, I think they were using the money to get the fort restored. And once the fort was restored, they closed all the tunnels off because they got no funding from the government. It was just like this little society that wanted to keep it up, in good nick. And then, because we can live stream and we got cameras, they don't really want us in there. I mean, we had cameras back then, yes, but it was very expensive to get your photos done.
Right.
It cost a fortune. It was like $25 just to get 24 photos developed.
Yeah. Believe me, and I had 4 kids, and they liked pictures.
Yeah.
But that, you know, part of the problem is, you know, in my world, because, you know, the people you know, the people I know, they are the salt of the earth. And we don't want to remember that it was less than 100 years ago that racial hygiene meant, you know, the world was made for white people.
Yeah. See,
And
that's just.
and that was the law of the land. It was accepted. It was, you know.
I think it was done because the elites didn't want people, you know, joining each other and talking and discussing what happened and then finding out the truth, you know, because they burnt all the books and had all the wars, and they didn't want people talking. They didn't want the word to get out as to what's really happened. I mean, that's why they disrupted the Australian Aboriginal population, because, you know, they've been here for so long, and they pass down what happened every generation through their tribal stuff. And, you know, the Australian Aboriginals are still on tribal law. I'll make a video about it. It's really interesting. But, I mean, their language has been found as far up as Sri Lanka, up on the other side of India. And they spoke over 700 different dialects, you know.
What makes people want to do this to other people, you know?
Yeah, I don't know.
Tell this person, sorry, you're not quite going to make it, you know.
Well, yeah, it's horrible. And I mean, I was only saying to my boy the other day, I said, they go on about Black Lives Matters and everything. I said, well, what about the town hall at Brisbane City? I said, what about those Aboriginals up the top on the triangle bit there? They got chains around their neck, and they're all chained together and held together and being whipped. I said, what about that? Why haven't they removed all of that stuff, you know? And he didn't even know it was there.
Right. It's not even there. It was late. You know, everybody knows that Thomas Jefferson had a slave named Sally Hemings. He treated like a white, but she was a slave. She was 3/4 white. She had, you know, 4 children that lived, I believed. Well, 2 of the, you know, they passed as white. The next generation, they were declared white. They're white. They were living as white.
Yeah.
Passed laws in 1880 that said no, they had 1 drop, so they couldn't be it. So that it went back to, she was a slave again, you know.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But you know what else I find ironic is the guy that founded the Ku Klux Klan, right, goes on about white supremacists and everything else like that, and yet only 2 or 3 generations back, his whole family was black. You know, and he didn't even know that. And he formed this group of the Ku Klux Klan hating the blacks. You know, I find it really ironic that this man went and started the group to hate blacks, and he was black descendant himself.
Exactly, because you can't tell by looking in the mirror, people, if you're going to be one of them.
That's right. And apparently there's 72 different sort of like, you know, sub-races of humans. There's 72 of them.
Madison Grant had a big hand in it. He created what might be called the racialist movement in America. As I mentioned before, good friends with Theodore Roosevelt, who wrote that the Negro was a member of a perfectly stupid race.
Yeah, it's horrible.
These
Absolutely.
people ran the United States. And in 1958, in case that, you know, we have to remember, in 1958, what are we at? Of the Education Act of 1958, Article 10, 1001 Part F. You have to sign this if you're going to get any money, payments or loans to anybody to work in the United States. that he has to have executed and filed with the commissioner an affidavit that he doesn't believe in and is not a member of and does not support any organization that believes in or teaches that the overthrow of the United States government by force or violence or by any illegal or unconstitutional method has taken and subscribes to an oath that I do not believe that this government has been overthrown. Well, I believe it was.
Oh, of course it was. Yeah.
If you're a member of the United Nations, your governments took that oath too in 1988.
Yeah. Well, like Klaus Schwab proudly said with the World Economic Forum, they've gone in and they've got all these countries under their thumb, what sort of information do they have on them that they're blackmailing them, bribing them, and how much are they paying them? Like if you want to know who's going to be the next leader of your country, just go and look at the young World Economic Forum members. That's who they'll be. They're not elected by the people. They're selected. They've got to bow down to the masters and agree to do what they say. You don't get into those positions unless you're part of the club. That's what people don't realize.
You know why they join those clubs? So they can beat you over the head with them.
Yeah.
That's a quote from the late Groucho Marx.
Oh, okay.
He goes, I have a good mind to join the club and beat you over the head with it.
Yeah. So they get a different sort of social status because, they're part of the group,
There's something to it. It is. The fascist symbols of the United States, they're still there every time we look at let me pull up that picture. Every time we lose our, where is my screen? Every time we see these, we can't forget, there's the beret that hangs on the United States Department of Army. It's in Argentina. It's in Brazil. It's all around the world. The Phrygian cap. It's in
France. Yeah.
Here's the fascista. She's holding it. Here's the Lady Liberty crown. It's right there. Here's the Captain America shield and sword. It is, they made Greek world. They made the 5-pointed star, star. No matter which direction you look at it, it's going to have 5 points. They're basing this on, they liked the world when there were kings and there were other gods ruling other nations. And this is an object lesson for the angels. We're caught up in, there's a Bible, there's a world. And unless we give everything to Jesus Christ and realize that this is not our home, I don't want to be, no, I don't want to be a part of your world. I can't be a part of your world. And if living in your world means I'm going to have to make a decision to either
submit to it,
fit in, whether it's sign an affidavit or have a medical procedure.
Yeah.
Then I'm out. I'm out.
Same here.
% out.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to. Yeah. I don't want to be a malingerer. I want to belong with God. Do you know what I mean? And I don't want to be part of the world. I mean, that's why I hate money. Money is the biggest idol of this world, and everyone every day is just going on about money, money, money. I just hate it. I absolutely detest it. It's not even real currency, it's just part of a Ponzi scheme. And the signs and symbols are there if you just look. I mean, but people are so wrapped up in the system, they can't see because they've been, educated through the system, and anyone that goes against the system gets attacked because of the education. So, and as the Lord says, anyone who tries to save their life shall lose their life. You know,
The
so
first will be last, the last will be first. Poor people, Jesus said, you'll always have with you. And when that's explained in the books of Moses, why are there always poor people? Are they unblessed? No. It is to give the blessed an opportunity to prove
they're worth. Yeah.
righteousness,
Yeah.
to realize that unless I had been blessed by God, that could have been me. I could have missed a medical payment.
Yeah.
I could have been the person that got, there's that part where if a guy's chopping wood and the axe handle falls off and it kills somebody and he didn't have anything against him, it was a total accident. He can run to another city and go, I didn't do it. Well, let's say this guy didn't die. Let's just say it hit me on the head and knocked me out,
Yeah.
There's laws for that, but in some countries, in some worlds, some people will say, what, I can sue that person?
Yeah. Well, suing really, I mean, I think suing come from America, and people suing is really, really, really stuffed up society. You look back, once that sort of took off is where all that workplace health and safety took off, and they've shut a lot of things down now because they can't get public liability insurance. The school can't hold the old fates and fairs like they did because someone went out and sued them because they don't take responsibility for themselves. And I think a lot of it comes down to your own responsibility, and like someone falls over and trips over in the supermarket, oh, I've got to sue. But now that affects other people. The food prices go up to cover for that money that you've just got. It just hurts other people.
Let's work off of what Lisa is putting in there, because she's asking actually a couple of questions in that one sentence there. Does Satan want one language, one faith, one amalgamated DNA? Well, based on what the Tower of Babel, he definitely wants to keep the one language because they were supposed to spread out and take dominion over the whole earth. Instead, they stayed together and said, let's build a tower and make a name for ourselves through that one faith. So those two kind of are a definite yes. One amalgamated DNA, we're just finding out now, and I can't even remember it. I have to keep looking it up, but I think it's Jeremiah 23, where it says that because of this curse, God was going to actually mingle with the tribes of Judah and Jerusalem, the seed of the beasts. And that the seeds of Jerusalem through Aholah and Aholabah, the two whores, Samaria and Jerusalem, Judah joined in their whoredom for 40 years. And they started those seed lines offered themselves up like prostitutes to everybody, except they weren't prostitutes. They did it for free. And so, they're all white. There is no more distinction of people. We're all the same.
Yeah.
We're all the same boat. We are either sheep or goat, because not one of us ran well enough or willed strong enough for God to have shown us mercy. None of us did anything good enough, smart enough. It's not of him that willeth or him that runneth, but of God that shows mercy. From the earliest books in Deuteronomy, and emphasized, in Romans throughout, that no one can take credit that they were born or born again. You weren't there when it happened. Your heart was changed.
Exactly.
All you can do is recognize. And what is the recognizing common element? At one point in our life, we've all been led to our knees and been shown the fact we actually deserved death, because that's how wicked we are.
Yeah.
And then what do we find? We find we're still locked in a body of flesh, and it's separate we still snapped at our children. That sin's covered, hallelujah. But our common element is we've been driven to our knees. We confessed with our mouth what we believed in our heart, that Jesus Christ was Lord. That's the only thing that makes that difference. It might imply that many are called to think that, but because of they're a seed that grew up in rocky soil and then just faded away and died. And that reminded me of the tribe of Dan. It reminded me of Judas. It reminded me of Satan. And by that, I remember that it says in First Epistle of John, the 3rd chapter, verse 8, that the reason Jesus manifested in the first place was to deal with sin. And well, if the end was written from the beginning, and this in the beginning happened, and very early in that, we see a serpent not called the Satan is already sinning enough to go down and do somebody's dirty work and go, hey, you know, this apple is good for food and you won't die. So there's already was sin among something before Adam and Eve sinned. So it can't be that our salvation was the main driving force if Jesus came, because there was already sin before we were created, because he knew us before we were in our mother's womb, before there was time. There's no surprises to an omniscient God. Thus brings the hard part. Well, why is there wickedness in the world? Well, why when Jesus was crucified, did the angels in heaven that we practically worship today, why were they going, what's happening? What's happening? They didn't know. This is only God knows. And we either believe that God manifested, and that word manifest means he manifested in the flesh, and that somehow he created Elohims that were in charge of different tribes. And Jesus was the King Yahweh manifested in the flesh from the beginning. That was the cloud during the day and the fire by night that led a group of people over a sea. And they drove out people, and they were going to have, you know, be that nation that was a light to all of the other nations. That plan from the beginning knew that in Abraham, all the nations would be blessed. But there was a veil over those Israelis. And are Israelis people white? I don't think so. I think we are all part Jew, and we're all humans, but we're not all atoms like they were created before the flood. I think we've been monkeyed with.
Yeah, we've been corrupted and they've messed with it. Yeah.
Right, but we're still human. We can be saved whether you're white, black, brown, red, or yellow. That's where there's no distinction. Just
Amen.
like that, oh, I can be saved because I'm a man, you're a woman. Well, that'd be the stupidest thing in the world, you know, because the Bible says there's no distinction between men and women, or Jews or Greeks, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. I mean, I got mocked the other week because, you know, I had a video with Tommy and Ashley, and, you know, I still, you know, pray and find that I am worthy. You know, I am on my knees praying that, you know, that I do find Jesus in heaven and that I am worthy of being with him, because we don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like, we don't know what's going to happen.
Why else would we be even while writing letters to people that knew people that had been martyred, he's still saying, you know, keep working out your salvation with fear and trembling. There is only one thing to fear, that can separate the soul from the body and the spirit. Because we are more than what we look at in the mirror. You know, there's RNA, DNA in our body, and we're in charge of it. We have a life that we're, you know, the world wants to see we're part of the world's team. I need to neglect my children to make money to live in this system because that's what's important. Where in reality, that's exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
You know, what's important is that child knows that you love them and that you don't need to, mommy and daddy go somewhere for 12 hours a day, pick them up for 4, and we are told that no, it's all about quality time, quantity, not quality. And
Yeah,
I'm
I mean, children feel abandoned when their parents do that.
Today trying to be a pillar of virtue and model this, and what am I repenting for every day? Because my version of that was my wife and I would work, but we would go, here's the best cell phone ever.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to say they got a better cell phone than you. And be good, because we're the ones that love God. We go to church 3 times a week to prove it. Here's your cell phone. And
Yeah.
then later on, they struggle with the same questions as the world because they've never been taught these hard things that we find in Scripture.
Yeah. And that's like with the children. I mean, these children are on loan to us. They're God's children. They're not our children. And we've been asked to teach them about the right and the wrong ways of life, And it's just, I can only hope and pray that, God forgives me for what I've done and can help my children, well, his children. But, I think we have to have evil in the world so we can recognize what we've done wrong. I think the two balance each other out too, because without evil, we wouldn't know. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. The Apostle Paul explained it through the 9th commandment, that Paul wouldn't even have known how to define what envy was unless he was told not to covet.
Mm.
And because then he could go like, oh, that's what I'm doing when I don't just like my neighbor's new donkey. I think it's the kick-ass donkey in the whole world. I wish I had one like it. Because look at what he can do with it, and to move on to Matt G's eyes, brown eyes, blue eyes, what's the difference? Okay, well, one's brown, one's blue. The blue, to have my colored eyes is almost a genetic anomaly. They shouldn't exist anymore based on the reproduction principles. There shouldn't be so many white people in the world today, and no way should they have been in charge. Not the way the breeding has gone. And as much as since the reset, we tried to preserve this mixed white, whatever orphan train situation we've had going, breed them. The fact that after 5,000 years of history that I can prove, there's still people with green, blue eyes. That's statistically impossible, as they want us to believe evolution is. But doggone, you look online, they're everywhere because they planned that. It wouldn't exist any other way than to say, look, IQ tests, they don't prove anymore white people are smarter. They only proved that when white people went to school and then they all got together and took a test against people that just learned how to read.
Mm.
Then you can prove anything you want. But the reason in the 80s and the 90s IQ tests went away is because their scores were coming closer and closer to where now there's no difference. And that doesn't sell in white man world.
Yeah, the race card, it doesn't play for them.
No, and we're the victims. We get to be right now as poor as the black people, but happy we're not the black people. Because they brought their poverty on themselves. We can fake it with credit cards, this and that. Go to Goodwill, find some couch tennis shoes and act like you bought them new. Fake it until at least I'm not like, those people that are on the welfare because I'm only on food stamps because times are rough. But boy, my daddy never had to. They always did. All those guys always did and milked it. I'm only doing it now because I have to and times are tough.
Mm. Yeah. My son, when he was born, because like your eye color changes at birth. I thought he was going to have blue eyes like me, but about when he was about 8, 9 months old, I noticed him starting to change, and they changed. It went to brown. I thought he would stay blue-eyed like his brother, but no, they took after his father. The Aboriginal gene kicked in, and they're beautiful brown now. the only one in the family with brown eyes. Everyone else has got blue eyes, and he's got brown.
Yeah. My daughter Shelby has like amber brown eyes that are gold. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
I think Lisa is on track here.
That's correct about the albinos. There's heaps. Yeah.
It is one of those things that's an anomaly. Now, whenever anybody had white skin in the Bible, I'd like somebody to show me where somebody had white skin and it wasn't called leprosy, and they didn't have to wear a mask over their face and say unclean when they approached people. That's a challenge I'll put out there for anybody in the Bible, because the only time they really make a point of saying, and there was some white skin, I'm thinking of Moses's sister Miriam, white skin. Oh, I got white skin. Oh my gosh, yikes. Every time they describe somebody that got leprosy, their white skin, and then it turned back. Whew.
Yeah, it seems to be a genetic defect.
And now now what's called evil is good, good is evil. Man, the whiter the skin, if you had red hair and blue eyes and had to wear a big hat, all of a sudden you're the princess from Frozen. You're the genetic dream girl.
Yeah, a lot of people are actually bleaching their skin to get that.
Because
it's very big in South America, that white skin thing. Yeah, the Asians do it.
Technically, we don't believe in scientific racism in the United States anymore. And we've been coached into believing that evolution didn't really teach survival of the fittest races. It was social Darwinism. We could work together. We're really nice to everybody, even if they're undermensch.
Yeah, Darwin was a Mason, so we know he had that agenda, for what they wanted the reality to become.
Matt, your children all have blue eyes because they planned to have blue eyes. You wanted to marry somebody that looked like you.
And when you're born, your eyes are fully developed. They don't grow anymore. That's why babies' eyes look so big, is because when you're born, the eyes are fully developed. Your head grows into the eyes don't grow into the head. And
Right.
the ears and the nose are the only other parts of your body that keep growing even till death.
Your head is actually 1/3 of the size when you're born, and the rest of your body, goes a lot more than 1/3. And the other thing about difference between blue eyes and brown eyes, they're going to have more astigmatisms and eye problems with your blue eyes.
That's interesting.
Right.
Because when I think about it, yeah.
I can't have this. My sister in Christ, hopefully, to my daughter Rachel, she can't have the surgery that I had, to get your eyes corrected. I only need reading glasses. And I didn't used to need them before I got old enough to need them. But she has astigmatism because you talk about blue eyes. They're bluest I've ever seen. She can't read. She can't read shampoo on the bottle in the shower.
Yeah.
It's the way it goes. But I mean, just the things. It's not just that they taught racial hygiene. It did come down to that the United States passed a freaking 1-drop law, and they went back and said it's not enough what they did before. In the 1910s, they said we got to kick it up. And in 1924, they did. They did the Racial Integrity Act of 1924. The Virginia Assembly passed it. This is it. The act reinforced racial segregation, prohibited no more interracial marriages at all, and a white person is one who has no trace whatsoever of any blood other than the made-up word Caucasian from the Caucasus Mountains, which aren't considered white anymore. But where are the Caucasus? I mean, isn't it Ukraine?
It's interesting that.
obsolete racial classification. Well, you still use it every day, don't you?
Yeah, and I mean it's the opposite now, isn't it? I mean they're encouraging interbred races, and you know, like you watch a ad, and I notice it's mainly in America. A lot of this stuff, you'll have the white woman with a black man, or you know, and they adopt a Chinese kid. Do you know what I mean? It's all about
Everybody's
mixed
a
races
family.
now.
Everybody's a family.
Yeah, yeah,
Whoever you happen to be with, that your family.
yeah.
But it just means white now. But did it come from the mountains? I thought it came from the Caucasus Mountains.
It's got to come from a genetic defect, but the eyes, I mean, like my stepdad, he's had a lot of problems with his eyes, and my dad has at the moment, and they're both all blue eyes. And yet, when I think about it, like on the other side where the Aboriginals are, they don't have much problems with their eyes.
Yeah, well, they got a problem with the Azerbaijanis now. You know, they really want that to be the Baku and stuff. That's
They have for about 20 years. They've been going on about Azerbaijan.
that's here they are. The Caucasus Mountains, Armenia, Georgia. Here's Iran. Greater Caucasus Mountains up here. Russian Federation. Huh.
They're trying the old Cold War tricks.
Yeah, would
here
they
in
consider
Australia.
those people white today if you lived in between the Caspian Sea and the Black Sea? But that's how everybody goes, yeah, I'm a Caucasian, I'm white.
I didn't know it
Not
actually
according
come from that.
not according to the strict racial scientism anymore. Scientific scientism anymore would say, you're too much like gypsies. But it's what we're stuck with. It's what we have to, you know, and people in the United Nations, their earliest anti-racist statement was in 1950.
Welcome back, Ashley. Jenny, you're not alone. You have family. You have us.
This bell curve in 1994, this is where they brought it back. And this is where Dr. Bennett, the headmaster at Christian Liberty Academy, started getting refired up on it's the N-words, it's the N-words. I'm telling you, they're just not smart, and they're trying to prop them up because at that time there was a young man who just showed up in town as a community organizer named Barack Obama. Started to go down there with Jeremiah Wright and preaching, God damn the United States. And oh boy, did the homeschool movement get fired up. We didn't like him anyway.
Yeah, but that word triggers a lot of people,
I'm
doesn't
going to
it?
drop a link in there. If you want to come in, feel free.
There's a lot of words in society that easily trigger people.
Right. And the fact that you didn't own a slave doesn't mean you hadn't benefited. And Black Lives Matter, you know, it's like, you know, that's a trigger word because automatically white people are going to go, white lives matter too. Well, yes, Black lives matter according to the Bible. But in reality, we just passed a law as a nation that said 95,000 Ukrainians can come in and we're going to make room for them because they're white.
And yet there's so much poverty in America as it is. That's what I mean. Like we were saying about the homelessness in Australia, they give 200 million to Ukraine, yet they can't help out the homelessness. And, you know, America's got so much poverty and homelessness as it is. Like, why can't they help your people as it is? Hey, Ashley. G'day.
Shalom. What are y'all talking about?
We're talking about white people, black people having to get along in the Bible, because as much as they're trying to set us against each other right now, black and white and everything in between are going to be a part of the synagogue of Satan, and they're going to be a part of the body of Christ.
Right. It don't
Yeah.
matter. You're right. Well, we're the, I agree, man. We're the body of the Messiah, and we're salted all over the earth. There's Chinese people that are the body of the Messiah, of the nation, of the government, God Almighty. That are in China, that are in Japan, that are in Israel, that are here. I agree. Right. It don't matter, black, white, Chinese, Japanese. Look at these dirty knees. It don't matter.
That's
We're
it.
all
We're
part
all
of
the
God's
same.
body.
Yeah,
Yeah, He
God
made every
sees
one of
us.
us.
Yeah, well,
Right.
God sees us that way. It's just, people have been brought up to believe because of what, they've been indoctrinated with the education system and their parents' belief and the family. And, they don't want to be sort of shunned as a black sheep or, shunned for thinking differently, and they don't speak up and they go along with it. It just keeps going on and on.
Right.
It's sad.
Right.
Sad.
I know that Tommy would want to say hello to Ashley and Jason. I don't know if Jason's there.
He's cooking us dinner.
Okay. Did you guys get a storm a couple of days ago?
Yeah, and it's been flipping windy as all get out. I'm talking like wind. And nice. It's just been cold. We thought it was gone, but if you think the weather ain't gonna change, or if you think the weather's the same, you just wait about 10 minutes in Tennessee and it'll be changing again. It's
Oh.
freaking cold again, So yeah, but we did get a nice little storm going on over here for sure.
I watched it. It was the same night that the tornado hit New Orleans. There were
Goodness.
tornadoes in the United States, and then one hit right in New Orleans. The rivers are flooding.
Just like you warned.
It's
You
all
warned.
coming down right now. And here's what I'm taking away from it. We all studied dew and the chemtrails and how they control the weather 4 or 5 years ago, and it's time to get back on it, because I think China's attacking the United States with weather weapons. I think set up Russia. I think Russia fully expected China to step in and help them drive them into the ground, but China's on their own plan of right now. Go ahead, Russia. Let's go get them. And it's kind of like what we used to do whenever anybody new came into our platoon. Man, you look like every inch of the soldier, man. Oh man, fresh out there. I bet you're so strong. They'd say he could do 40 push-ups in 30 seconds. And the guy, I could probably do 50 in 30 seconds. That was a big deal. Oh, show me. And he'd do the push-up, and then my thing would always be like, no way I could do that. Yeah, you're right. You just got somebody to do 50 push-ups, and it's like, yeah, no, you won. You did it.
Hey, you know what? The other day, the Australian government announced with their Space Force more money contributed to, because he said there are people that want to control the space, above the countries, and that they weren't going to let them do that. And that sort of got me thinking about, drones and people, being able to use like their own sort of flying vehicles. That's what I think all this space stuff is about, is the flying sort of stuff.
My point to that story, and then I'll let you chime in, Ashley, was that now Russia has expended all of that energy. They're getting the crap blown out of very expensive tanks and planes and everything else. And China stood back and said, hands off. But I don't think China's done. I think they might come after Taiwan. And now when Russia down, United States down, who really is going to tell China, you can't sell us any more oil or food? We're all dependent on China. Even if we want anything from a birthday party hat.
Well, can I interrupt you there for that? Well, you were saying about China not doing anything. Well, quietly, while all this has been going on, China has been building up more missiles on the South China Sea, on that island. They actually installed missile silos, and they're worried because it can hit Pine Gap, that base in the middle of Australia. That's US. It can hit anywhere in Australia. And Australian Defence Peter Dutton said the other day, there's talks that Australia is going to go and take the Solomon Islands by force.
Right. Yeah,
so I
right.
think that's why China hasn't been doing anything, is because they've been quietly.
Afraid of Australia.
Yeah, but that's
They're-
what they did. They admitted it in the media that they're going to go and take the Solomon Islands by force because Australia signed an agreement with them in 2016 and gave them so much money. And now they broke that agreement and allowed China to build bases there. And China's been building these missiles. So I think that's why China didn't do anything, because they're busy doing their own stuff to come and get the Pacific.
I don't think China's afraid of 4 nuclear subs from the United States. They could probably jam those things so fast and make them attack Sydney's harbor instead.
Oh, easy. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
There was
Go
a
ahead.
Chinese sub in Sydney Harbour years ago that they found, you know.
Go ahead, Ashley. What are you thinking?
Well, I'll bring it to a technology level of thinking, because what I'm seeing happen is artificial intelligence is rising, in the background in the technology center, and that's what's running all these machines, is this artificial intelligence. Ukraine produces 70 to 90% of the neon gas for the whole world. I've talked about this with the tokamaks. There's 2 tokamaks, main ones that are used today, and that's in France, the tokamak in France, and the one in China. And this neon gas helps that plasma. I don't know how all that works, but I know that Ukraine producing this amount, and then all of a sudden we have this huge war, and then all these wars that are going on, what are they using? They're using artificial intelligence. They're using all this new technology against one another. And what's happening in the background, what's going on in the background is the ones are signing off for peace, all these peace treaties, and let's come together and let's stop fighting so much, and the technology world, they're talking about merging, human, man and woman with, well, I won't say human, but man and woman with technology, it's what I seen someone make a comment about the DNA, we won't go on. What I see happening, what's going on with China is China. I'm just wondering who they are, in the word. What nation is this? Where in Revelation, whereabouts in Revelation are we? I believe we're past chapter 19, and chapter 17 is when these have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These nations, these certain nations, these 10 kings, and they're going to be one mind. Well, that reminds me of artificial intelligence. That's what they're trying to do, is this merging of minds. And then every one of us have their weapon on us. Every one of us carry these, devices with us. And then come to find out this morning, Jason came in here and told me about Crimea, which is in Ukraine, but apparently Russia owns it now. And in 2014, around February and March, I think it was February
They got
23rd.
it back, yeah.
Was when when Russia took over Crimea. Well,
They
apparently
chose to go
Crimea
back, yeah.
is on a huge ley line, a huge piece of land that resonates in energy on the ley line, and they've got this black pyramid there. Right. And all of a sudden this is like coming out, you know what I'm saying? Like they're telling us what they're doing behind closed doors. And if we would just what they're showing us in the news, we know, that half of it's flipping crap. They're trying to get everyone fighting with one another, when all the while what they're doing is they're keeping us distracted, and they've got the artificial intelligence government rising. I really believe that's what's happening here. That's my personal opinion. But because all these nations that I've looked into that are fighting in war, man, their main thing is artificial intelligence. They got their flipping hand all up in it,
Well,
China. China
Putin
and
said,
Canada have Freemasonry. China and Canada, I'm sorry, Ella, one more thing.
you're right. You're
China
right.
and Canada have Freemasonry. China does their Freemasonry little get together. It's like the Chinese year celebration, and it's Freemasonry Brotherhood. They're not all secretive about it. They put it on there. You can look it up. I'm subscribed to the channel for it because I think it's very interesting. They only do it in China and in Canada. Well, what's Canada got to do with the price of tea in China? What's Canada got to do with China? You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, there's things, and of course we know that the things that they do in these celebrations, this New Year celebration, it is rituals. You know, calling upon these false gods that they worship, the fallen angels. Okay, I'm done.
Sorry. No, I was just going to say, Putin said whoever controls, like, learns to have.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crimea is super important.
I'll be back in a second, guys. Hang on.
Ashley,
Yes, ma'am.
Crimea is
Yeah.
super important.
Tourism.
Look at that.
Yeah. Putin had a bridge built from Crimea to Russia. I forgot about that as well.
Bus. See, they're running it the old way.
Interesting.
This is a good way to travel also, cable cars.
Oh, look at all those old buildings. Look at that. Look, that's all batteries and simulators.
Recognize the American cancer symbol?
Boom.
Yeah, that's a minuet.
Minuet.
Hey, look at those are your white people.
Mm.
Hi, everybody. Ashley, I saw you there in the front row.
Yeah. Oh, good. What's going on there?
That's
Some kind of
the grave of a Russian poet.
right. And so here we are worshiping the dead and doing our little ritual and celebration of satanic. Oh my God. Praise Yeshua. Thank you, Jesus.
I think I was probably about as long as I'd ever let my hair get. It's probably a little bit longer than I'd let my hair get. Kind of long.
You should I like the long hair. I think it's awesome. But everybody does what they want. Yeah, man, they got flipping Taj Mahals going on over there. You know what I mean?
This is all in Crimea.
Yeah, man.
I like
Flipping. He's like, Jason loves those old buildings. When I see them, I don't know what to think about them. I don't know what how to feel about these these structures yet, you know, because we are the temple, and I just don't know yet. But that's just.
Go ahead, Ella.
Oh, Ella had to do something. She's busy now.
Oh, okay.
What are you doing?
I would have looked something up, but you had me going, man, talking about the artificial intelligence, because you know, you can make a computer. You don't need electricity. You can just use water for their binary system where they like, you know, white or black, without realizing, you know, that the law is good. The law is perfect. But what's better, the law or the spirit of the law? The spirit of the law. And that's what we have. That's why, you know, Saul the king could say something stupid like, I want to kill Jonathan. And the people can go, oh, no, you don't. Oh, no, you don't. You don't get to kill Jonathan. He's the actual hero here today. Because that's the spirit of the law.
Right. You can't move. Right. Oh man, you know.
People, if they killed Jonathan that day because he didn't hear it, and he ate food, which was the only thing that gave him the strength to save the day. People knew that.
That's interesting that you said it in that way because the artificial intelligence, Sophia. I've been watching it because like I don't know where I don't know where she's popping up everywhere. No, not she. It is a machine. It is not a female. It is a machine. But it is popping up everywhere, and it is literally like saying the words of they're going to be an artificial intelligent government, and anyone
Yeah.
that strays from that is disobedient. Oh, I have to go back and listen to the clip, but dude, either way, the fruit you talking about food. It's been talking about how they can't eat food. I've been hearing it say it more often, where they can't eat food like we can, but they eat data. They eat data.
What?
Right.
Go ahead and eat all the data you want. I don't
Right,
want
but the data is collecting on each and every one of us, Right. And our fingers, when they touch these screens, that's why I like to do things more on my computer than I do on the phone, because when our fingers touch the screens, that is our electromagnetism touching the screen.
And the
And
screen's a
whatever.
black scribe. Yeah.
Right, dude. Right, sister. Sorry, dude.
I'm glad you're back, Ella. How much of that did you hear? I'm anxious to
Oh,
hear.
I was listening. I just had to, do something. So yeah, no, I'm listening.
Do you have anything to add? Because I want to show something that's going to take about 10 minutes, but you can add anytime.
The AI is really interesting because when you bring up that, because Australia got its first quantum computer in 2018 or the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, which makes sense with what Ashley's saying. But what I want to say is when this AI finally learns, what the perimeters are that being set and what the elite have done, I can see all of this stuff turning on them big time, and it'll be like Terminator trying to shut down the machines. You know what I mean? Like they've started something that is not going to stop.
I think she just touched on the most important topic of all, Ashley, because why don't AI computers yet figured out? They haven't given us the whole story.
Exactly.
Right. They haven't.
Somebody.
They haven't. You really got to sit here. You got to sit.
Go ahead.
You really got to sit. I mean, like these past few weeks, Tommy actually, he said, I need to look in Geordie Rose. And I was like, you're right. We ain't heard much about him in a while. And that was it, bro. It said it all for me. And I've had to sit and listen to many, like all the Moaba Jumbo, I don't listen to all the technical, words and stuff, but I just listen to certain points through him and Ben Gortzel, the two of the just major quantum computing, artificial intelligence stuff. And they're all talking about, and get this. So they're all talking about, that this comes from aliens, right? That this comes from someone that is not from here, some being, some entity that is not from here. And that's what they come from, right? And so my thing is I think what they've done is through programming, through television, they have told us, we're going to see ships and aliens are coming, right? Ships. But the aliens are already here.
They walk among
the
us.
aliens
Exactly.
are the fallen angels. The aliens are the false gods that the word of God tells them they're going to worship the sun, the moon, and the stars. Well, what are they constantly worshiping? It's these fallen angels. Because the angels are the stars. The angels are stars. Like, and that's
what
in
about
Revelation 7.
Dark Night satellite there too up there?
Yeah, is there any reason I love you and Tommy so much? I mean, geez, that's great. You guys are my favorites.
We love y'all too. We love you too, brother. You're just
talked to Tommy a little while ago. He's doing good.
Yeah, you got so much wisdom to share, Alan, and your knowledge is just unreal. Like we've been listening. I go for drives with Dad, or listen, and he's been listening to you a lot lately too. It's
this is going to shock you that this is from a couple of years ago, and it's right in the middle of what you're talking about, Ashley. I mean, it is right in the middle of it, and I've just got to get you guys' opinion on this. So if you could just
see, iron and clay don't mix. It says it in the Bible.
Right. So think about Crimea. Think about where they're at. New World Order, Turkmenistan. This is a friend of mine put this out years ago. 7 months ago, 4 months ago, these comments. I thought it was much older than that. It's the one I saw was years ago, so who knows? He might have redone it, but fascinating topic. I know this is going to blow you away. Oh, a classic re-upload.
Heard of in a country you've never heard of. The country is called Turkmenistan, and you've never heard of it because it's only existed for a little while.
Oh, she's just redoing. I was looking up Sacred Geometry Decoded, and she's just redoing his video. Let's see what she says. You're going to find it fascinating.
While. And if you have heard of it, you probably have heard of it in a negative light because there's a little bit of conspiracy about why you're not allowed to know what's going on here. And in this video, I'm going to cover it. I believe that this city and this country have access to multiple sources of free energy. And in this video, I'm going to cover what they are, how they work, what it means for these people, and kind of what it means for us. Are you ready? This is a massive piece of equipment within the city. The people are told that this is an indoor Ferris wheel. And by all accounts, it looks just like that. And functions as that too, except almost nobody goes to ride it. And I believe that it's actually a free energy harvester hiding in plain sight. Also, that's not the Star of David. That's 8 points, and it represents the 8 gates into paradise. And the person who made this, the president of the country who designed this, wanted 8 gates of paradise for his constituents. And the more I learn about the country, the more it seems like he wanted quite a lot for his constituents, considering he gave them access to all of this free energy. So you might ask, why, Daphne, do you think that this is more than just a Ferris wheel? Well, let me tell you a couple things about a Ferris wheel. The whole point of it is for you to be able to see the ride. You know, the perspective changes as you go up and you come back down and you get to see things. Now, I've watched blogs of people who have gone to ride this Ferris wheel and they say, you know, you really can't see much out. The whole point of the Ferris wheel is to see, you know, what's going on so high up, and you really, there's only so many spots in the glass that you're able to see out and get a good perspective, and it just doesn't seem like it's meant to be just a Ferris wheel, right? That and the fact that it's got this thing on the top of it. Check this out. What is that? Well, we're going to talk about it. This monument was erected by the country's first leader, and it has a statue of him on top of it, which rotates with the sun, and he's always facing the sun. And I believe that this statue that represents their neutrality harvests electricity from...
How's that for a flat earth proof too? You know, he's just standing up there rotating it as the circle, just like it shows that in those David Weiss videos. This is cool. It's all in one place.
From the atmosphere, as well as solar power. And he erected this because he didn't want to go to war with anybody, and he didn't want anybody to go to war with him. This was a symbol of his neutrality, in that he was so independent that he didn't...
This is where you were talking about, Ashley, the king of ley line places.
Yeah.
This guy's got all this money. This country, it's got like, I mean, this capital city doesn't even have 1 million people. It's just like, they got money.
And they only let Westerners in a few years ago. It was closed off.
Countries. He didn't need to send his people to war. And he never did. He never did. Actually, his tactic worked for over 20 years. And I'm going to talk to you about exactly why I believe this is harvesting more than one source of energy. Now, any of you watching who have any desire to learn more about what I'm talking about, you all have the ability to look up how atmospheric electricity works and learn for yourself. You will be surprised to find out that it runs on something called a corona wheel or a corona motor. And also,
What?
as it turns out, all you have to...
You guys have anything yet?
Oh my goodness. No, just the corona. It caught my... I'm sorry. I couldn't control myself. I'm sorry.
Anything Ella?
Well, it's on a ley line, and you got I'll keep watching.
Ashgabat, the ghost city of Turkmenistan. Ooh.
And this was closed off to Westerners. It's only been recently that people from the Western world have been allowed to go there. And when you do go there, you are followed. I've watched a few videos of a few Australians going there, and they've always got to have someone there with them.
So the thing is that they actually passed that law just because they wanted to keep out Ella and Ashley. So they just said they want to keep out all honkies.
Well, the higher up that state goes, the more atmospheric power you can harvest.
In our case, we got good results at around 120 meters or 390 feet up. At 100 volts per meter or 100 volts per yard, that's 12,000 volts between that height and the ground. But just as with you standing on the ground, the wire is an electrical conductor, and so is also a ground potential. Looking at the equipotential lines around the wire, that voltage of 12,000 volts exists between some distance away from the wire and the wire. You can see that the equipotential lines are closest together at the top of the wire. This means the attraction is strongest there, and electrons make their way upward in the wire. Let's look more closely at the top of the wire. We put 6 sharp points using sewing pins at the top of that wire. But for ease of illustration, I'll draw just one. Notice that because of the sharp shape at the point, the charges are crowded together at that point. Remember also.
You get the idea. These are the street lamps in Ashgabat.
Man, that's really, I mean, edited good time and everything, wasn't it? I mean, gee, this is only, I mean, she has said a lot and it's not even been 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. And you've seen a lot of y'all, I'm sure have seen like pictures or videos of the P900 camera and how the stars, inside the star, it'll have that design. It'll have a star like mandala type pattern inside of it.
Yeah, Tommy's got something like that too. I mean, and I feel sorry, for like all the salt of the earth people. Like, there's no way Tommy could just give up like all his money right now.
Right.
That'd be stupid.
What happened? Where'd you go? What happened?
So all you people out there, we understand. We know that it's a process. This is a process.
Right.
That everybody's got to be smart. I don't know what
we've got to see what's really going on. Like we this is really happening. This is not something that's coming out of a television show, out of a program. We literally see this unfolding right before our eyes. This is really going on. It's not some fairy tale, and it's happening.
Show them that we can do it. We have to show. That's how come we have to end up like the first thing is these flower pot water things. We've got to make a few and test them and see if it really freaking works. And then save money. And then if we can do that with electricity and all the other stuff, that's the way it'll get it to work. And then
I think they get their electricity from the stars. I think because if you've seen what that video right before she clipped over to this one, how at the top of it had the prongs, and it reminded me of one of the mandala stars. It's one of the stars. It's the asterisk. It is a star, and how how the energy goes up. It goes up, and it has a stopping point. And I really do. I think that these lines are connected to the stars. I really do. I think that that's how they're able to roam. They're through electricity, data. I'm not, we're just figuring this out. Totally the Holy Spirit is just revealing this.
But also sorry to interrupt, but also the ley lines, the ground, the earth produces electricity. So it'd be coming up from the ground as well.
Well, let me add that thought then, Ella. I'm looking at those patterns right now, and that looks like the Ukraine flag symbol without the hooks on the outside. That looks like it looks like a fractal antenna. It's made to gather energy. What's with that flag anyway? That
weird. Was only changed a little while ago. It's supposed to be the wheat in the field and something else for the colors.
It's like a trident hook.
Yeah.
Well, let's hear her some more.
Okay.
in Turkmenistan. And what makes them very interesting is that they harvest enough atmospheric power to run themselves. If you check out the points on the top of each one and understand that though they are not as high as the Eiffel Tower, they're not generating as much energy as the Eiffel Tower. Altogether, they are generating more. And if you were to look at the streets of Ashgabat, you would wonder, why in the hell do they have so many street lamps? And the answer is that because at that level, they can only generate so much atmospheric energy. So they have to have several of them, like in long rows, which help add to their abundant natural resources, which include natural gas, oil, solar, and atmospheric power. Now, we have this structure, also known as a power plant in Ashgabat, and it is a serious machine. If you look at the dome and the points on all of the towers, actually all of the other domes around the big dome, you understand that this is a source of what is known as Antiquitech. And if you watch John Levi's videos, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They are harvesting a massive amount of energy right here. And they share it with their people. Their people only pay 10% income tax. Their people get free electricity, free gas, and they only pay, I think, 2 cents per liter of gasoline. So they get their natural gas for free, they get their electricity for free, and they only pay 10% income tax. And they get to live near structures that look like this, and they get even better. This is more than just what it looks like. It's not just a building or a bank or a hotel. This is Antiquitech. And if you notice the points at the top, and all of the gold leaves. These are not just for decoration.
That just makes me think of they'll mount up like wings like eagles, and so that made me study how feathers apply natural lift to birds. It looks like a feather, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely, no doubt.
Maybe feathers are fractal antennas.
Interesting.
Those points are not just for decoration. Those are harvesting energy. At nighttime, the city comes to life and shows off all of their many sources of free power. Yes, they do. And people wonder why the town looks like a ghost town in the middle of the day, but the truth is that it's a lot like Las Vegas. It's really hot. It's in the middle of the desert. It's so hot in the day that they don't really go out and do much, so it looks like a ghost town and people think, it's so creepy. Oh, it's North Korea. It's so creepy. There's nobody there. But there are people there, and they come out just like they do in Las Vegas and enjoy their abundant, beautiful, free energy and lights, and they have a pretty active nightlife. And this being just one more example of them flexing their beautiful, beautiful power and their skills. This is the Tower of Independence, which indicates that they will never go to war with any country because they have all of the resources that they need, that they are completely an independent people and an independent culture, and they do not have Coca-Cola or McDonald's. This is what's known as their wedding building.
Oh my goodness, it's Metatron's cube.
Oh, dude, there it is. Boom. Oh my goodness.
This
The
is,
symbol.
you know, I got an aversion to the cities, but this is a cool one. I mean, if it's that cheap, I mean, why wouldn't it? I mean, that's cool, but there's got to be a catch, right? It's that ley line devil shit. I don't want to get, you know.
It
I mean,
is. It's the symbol. It's the symbol of it's the Jewish, you know, the Star of Remphan. I believe it 100%. The Hindus have a ritual that they do, a dance that they do, and they paint that very symbol the same as it's the Jewish star. They paint it on the back of their heads when they do this ritual.
That's 8 points on that star.
That is 2 squares.
Yeah, that's not 2 triangles.
Sorry to interrupt, but what about that the big hole in the big fire in the ground that the geologist set on fire? I wonder what that ties into as well.
Where was that?
Yeah,
quite close in Turkmenistan. It's the Devil's Hole. It's been going since the 70s. A massive fire hole in the ground. It was supposed to be a gas well, and they couldn't plug it or something, and they decided to blow it up, and it put a whole huge crater in the ground, and it's still burning to this day. I wonder what that's got to do with any of this. I wonder if it
I
has
don't know,
something
but
to
it's got something to do with it. You're right on the money. It's got something to do with it.
Years? It's burning. That's a problem.
Yeah, it's still burning.
I'm burning a mule.
This is where people go to get married. And it's also an enormous solar power collector. It is fantastic. And the people chilling by the pool here, they're really enjoying all the water that's been brought into the middle of the desert. We're going to talk about why this town, this city.
Nerd alert. Anybody?
Nerd alert.
Anybody on a nerd alert? What was that Metatron's cube anyway?
Metatron's cube. Oh my goodness.
I'm going to look that up and see if I can get one of those GIFs.
MET. It'll fix it.
Did I spell it wrong?
It's okay. It'll fix it.
Because I'm stoned.
It's okay. It'll fix it, brother. Yeah. Right. It's the two triangles. Right. But what's the squares, man? What are those two squares? See, that's what I think. I think that the stars have different patterns. I think that each star has a different pattern in it. And like what we just seen there with the two triangles, that Mandala, I guess that's what they call them. Is it Mandala or Mandela? I think it's Mandala. They all have these same symbols, and it's the symbols of the chakra system, and it's the symbols of the Kabbalah tree. It's all the same worship. For sure. Man,
Look,
what is
it's triangles on the inside, but it is a cube on the outside. So you would, if you looked at it 3D from a corner, I don't know how you could. There is a way you could cube, but that's not a pure Metatron's cube because that folds in on itself like a Mobius strip. Maybe there's another one. That's closer to what I was thinking. But it's still not that good.
Yeah, it still goes back to the.
That's.
Oh,
I don't know what that is.
Too much.
No, that's not it. Nope. Maybe I visualized it better myself in 2D.
Yeah, I've not seen that too. I mean, but I know that it's around. That's a.
But anyway, it's a lot to those New Agers, right? I mean, they
right,
go.
all this does right. Yes, because I'm telling you, I feel like it connects them, to these fallen angels. I mean, and that's how they're able to be controlled and ran by them. The principalities and powers, the rulers of the darkness of this world, spiritual wickedness in high places.
Hey, this looks like that game that's so fun. I like to play that Chinese checkers. I'm good at it too.
Yeah, I've never been good at that one. I can play spades and rummy.
Oh,
what
man.
about you, Ella? What can you play?
I play that one, the Chinese one. I've played that a lot as a child with my dad. Yeah.
I'm stuck on Sudoku right now, or Sudoku. I say it Sudoku. I'm country, and Jason corrects me every time.
Yeah, I like a lot of those sort of buttons. They get your mind going. Like if you stop, using your mind.
I like hearts. At one point, I was in the top 3,000 of the world.
Wow.
On Yahoo. Remember when Yahoo, used to be like a big deal?
Yep.
And everybody played online and stuff like that?
Yeah, they had that game.
There was like almost 4 million people playing hearts. And to get a purple was the highest you could be. And I made it to purple for 3 games.
Oh wow.
Yeah, top
Wow.
3,000.
That's awesome, brother. You spent
Yeah,
a lot of time diligent
I,
on that game, bruh.
I made my own version of a cardboard slide rule that would keep track of all the cards that would play in case I messed up in my head. Just to be sure, you know, and everything like that. And
Man, you got serious with it, bro.
I was playing it like it was Texas Hold'em. I was doing everything by the math. And it got so that if I was playing with regular people, every play in hearts, I try to run it. No matter what hand I get, I try to get all 26 points. Every time.
It's a good game.
I love euchre and spades.
I love some spades, man. I played a lot of it in jail, being locked up, man.
We
What?
play a lot of mahjong.
You went to jail. Ben went to jail too. I went to jail for 4 days, but it was just a holiday weekend.
I like playing mahjong.
Yeah, I used to play that a lot when I was a lot. Yeah, I like mahjong.
What
Get your
about
brain going.
what about? Have you ever played dominoes? A game called Train.
No.
That's good. Dominoes is basically even straight up dominoes where you add to 15. That's good too.
Yeah, I like playing dominoes. I've not played the one called Train. Go.
Here's a crazy game that my
Man,
parents.
Ellen was gonna say something.
Sorry to interrupt. I was going to say, Alan, I dropped a link in about that fire that's been going for over 40 years.
Okay, you're gonna have to put it in the private chat, or I won't be able to do it.
Oh, okay. Okay, hang on.
There's this game called cribbage, and my parents could play it for hours at a time. It's a 2-person game called cribbage. They used to play that. They play a game called Casino. And whenever they had friends over, they would play pinochle, like it was going out of style.
Yeah, pinochle. My Mama and them's was Mama and Papa's was Rook. Man, they were always playing Rook. I didn't learn how to play it till I went into jail.
Rook is like hearts. I try to run it every time. You know, don't give me. Go ahead, punish me. You gave me those tricks. I like.
Yeah.
And what is a game that is international? It is everywhere under God's domed earth. Cat's Cradle. Girls that do tricks with strings. Every culture has that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I don't know why it made me think of it, but the Chinese tapestries or whatever, they it's called something, a certain type of art, but you weave string, and it puts a pattern on one side, but it makes a pattern on the other side as well. And that's actually what they say these phones are, that us in here at the front, what we see and what patterns we're making are it's making another pattern on the other side of the phone. And I'm not sure, but I just thought that's what reminded me of Cat's Cradle, huh?
Yeah.
The weaving of the weaving of a net. You think of a net, the network, and the net. I don't know. That's interesting.
I want to show. Let's look at it.
Where'd Ella go? Oh, she's trying to figure that out. Come on.
Today, we're going to show you how to do Cat's Cradle. This is a 2-person string game that you play with a friend. And basically, you are going to create 3 shapes over and over again and pass the string back and forth to each other. The object of this game is to see how long you can keep it going without messing it up. Okay, to get started, you're going to take your string loop, chin, and grab this X on each side, just like that. You're going to pull that out around the bottom string and under it, right through it. Now, as you push up, your friend is going to release all the strings, and you are going to open your thumb and forefinger. You should have the second shape, which is this X shape.
The X.
Your friend is going
Is that
to grab the
crazy?
two X's,
Yeah.
sides,
And it makes only 3 shapes.
Did
I
you-
wonder if you can make more shapes or if there's only those specific 3.
thumb
And
forefinger.
are those 3 the Star of David, the 2 square one that we just seen, and maybe something else? That's interesting.
Oh, my sisters were good. My sisters.
Oh yeah, they were.
Oh
I
man.
Do that.
I mean, they could do it where they could like walk the cradle at the. I mean, they probably weren't this good, but they were
The
good.
last thing I'm going to show is if I start out with the crosses and go around, and then when I come back up, instead of coming up into the center, I take my thumbs and have them come back in these slots.
Come on, old timer.
The index finger in these other slots. And then when I pull this apart, lo and behold, fish in a dish.
Lo and behold, fish in a dish. That's what he called it.
Fish in a dish.
Your friend's hands are this way. So
Fish in a dish.
I love it. I love it.
I never had the patience to do those things.
No, neither
Oh, yeah?
did I. They would try. They had this one where they would always, it'd be so convoluted. They'd both have to both get it together, and they'd go, Alan, put your finger in here. I'd be like, I was a skittish child because my sister would beat the shit out of me for no reason.
Bless
And they'd
him.
be like, put your finger in here. And it's a big knot to me, and so I'd have to put my finger in there and they go, hold on. And I'd go, okay, all right. And then they both act like they're going to pull really hard and they both snap back. And I just sit there and all the strings had disappeared and my finger was just still there. And I'm like, oh, because it's pretty square. They were good.
That's hilarious. They would tease you like they're gonna.
My older sister, the mean one, she's the superintendent of schools now where we grew up. That's how mean she is. You imagine the mean teacher that got to be the principal and then the superintendent. That's her. And then my littler sister, who is my Dutch twin, she was like only 14 months younger than me. So we were basically the same. And we both had, dark hair and hazel eyes, not the pure blue eyes. So we had that. It was great. Hey, let's look at some more of that girl about this power, energy and stuff.
I just shared the link to that.
Go ahead, Ellie. I was just about to say, is there anything?
Yeah, I just shared the link to that in the private chat. It's just a short article if you want to have a quick look.
Then we're going to do that first.
I love her also.
It's really interesting.
Hellish desert pit. It's been on fire.
What years?
Fire. This is from the much despised Smithsonian magazine. Huh. Well, there you go. Okay. This is part 1 of the plasma event.
It's just interesting. Why didn't they just cap the well? Like they knew how to cap the wells back then. Like apparently it was like a sinkhole and they lost equipment. And so it's got a little bit description below it. It's right near that town you were talking about.
Turkistan.
Look at that. It's just, you're walking down, imagine what in Genesis when Moses said, stand back, the Lord is going to devour them.
Right. The two that made the strange fire. Is that what you're saying?
No, the whole tribe of
Oh.
Korah that talked Aaron into building the calf.
Oh.
Remember, there's over 1,000 of them, all their tents and everybody just gone.
Gone.
Just like that's what I'm picturing right here.
Yeah,
It-
yeah,
it-
that's a
Something like that, only it sounded much worse because it was, well, 1,000 people. That's a lot of tribes and tents and
It
all
is.
their animals and everything.
It's
Right.
230 feet across and 65 feet deep. Apparently, no one was injured in the collapse, but scientists soon had another problem on their hands: the natural gas escaping from the crater. The natural
Wow.
composed mostly of methane. It just doesn't make sense to me. Why didn't they cap it or get dozers and just push a whole heap of sand into it? Like,
Yeah, Ella Rose is talking about why didn't they make lemonade out of that? I mean, that's obviously a bad situation, but if there's lemonade to be made,
why didn't
Right.
they just sink another hole close by and do an angle and get the gas
right,
out?
I mean, it's not even toxic.
Mm.
It says
That right.
This doesn't make sense.
It does displace oxygen, so it would sink to the bottom. You couldn't have it in an enclosed environment. But still, if it's a type of methane that's not
Right.
toxic, that's a new one on me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was only supposed to burn for a week, the scientists said, but it's almost half a century so
Yeah,
far.
50 years. 50 years, man. It's
5%
been burning for 50 years, man.
5% methane is all it takes to burn. So it's flaring. It's not burning, it's flaring.
And this is in Turkestan. And when did you say that they found this?
1961, they were drilling for
Yeah, they
gas.
didn't even find it. It happened on them.
Yeah.
Oh,
they'd, like,
From
sinkhole.
drill. Yeah, they're drilling.
Oh my gosh, Alan, my flipping my internet thing is starting to look like yours, brother. Y'all got me looking up all this
No,
stuff.
pray for it to stop. Yeah.
Man, yeah, this is only a few miles from this.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just off to me. Something's deeper. Like, there's more to it.
Okay,
Yeah,
we'll
that is.
back up with me retracting my words that this is not Metatron's cube, but it looks like it. And these are still energy gatherers, and these are still nerds. Anything, Ella, than Ashley?
Oh, let's keep going. It's interesting. I haven't seen this one, so.
You got anything, Ashley?
Oh no, I was looking up Turkestan in this hole. I'm sorry, brother. I'm listening.
The word nerd just jumped into my mind.
Oh, nerds.
This country brought so much water in. Now, as we discussed with the domes and the towers and the atmospheric energy, what you can come to understand from this photo is that this is a power plant. And the ponds around it are not for appearance. This is not landscaping. This is not decor. This is not feng shui. These are cooling ponds for this power plant. And you will notice if you look through enough pictures of Ashgabat through Turkmenistan that there is a distinct difference between the fountains and the beautiful lakes that they've made for appearances and the dirty kind of dingy water that is their cooling ponds. And they normally exist around these very large power plants that are passed off as mosques or palaces or just maybe sometimes even banks. They're passed off as sometimes hotels. They're passed off as a lot of things. What they're saying the building isn't exactly what the building is, and people think that this is just political, or
This girl is so suspicious, isn't she?
Yeah, I like it.
They got those buildings in China too.
It's like it's like a new star fort.
Yeah.
I never even heard of the president of this country before.
So it's been closed off to the west.
Before they started making videos about this country, I didn't even know this country existed till like 5 years ago, and I didn't even. Yeah, I gotta look. I want to finish this one because I still want to see the one my friend made about it. The guy that does sacred.
Sorry to interrupt. My cousin's been working there since sort of the mid to late 90s, and all his income is tax-free, duty-free, and he married a woman there and converted religion. everything. Yeah, he loves it there.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, girl. You got somebody on the inside. That's amazing. Oh my goodness. I love y'all. I gotta go. My man's done cooking food and I smell it and I'm hungry.
Right.
And y'all have a blessed day. I love y'all.
God bless you, Ashley. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye now. We're going to try to close out some of this stuff.
That is a really interesting video, Alan.
Right. I want to finish it up. We can get rid of the one drop rule. I kind of like this, the way this is going here.
I should ask my cousin to go and just film some videos. He works in the oil and gas industry too.
Because this is the guy, and he had one about that city.
I mean, all those cities that were closed off to the Westerners is what we should be looking at, because, you know, they weren't destroyed and bombed and everything. I think we should look at those sort of places.
Right. This is because that's what they.
Hello, I'll put.
Just saying, I seen a comment about Jonah fighting the AI. Remember the Greeks had that robot Talus?
Refresh my memory on that.
It was a robot, the Talus. He used to walk around the island, you know, and he had a thing at the bottom of his foot, and they undid it and he stopped. He was a robot, and he used to walk around the island several times a day protecting it.
Wow.
And they were only able to stop him by, you know, cutting off the bit at the foot and draining out all his oil. But the robot, he's a big robot, like a giant robot. Talos, it was called.
Well, I want to watch this one later about the Phrygian cap, because that'll tie into the apotheosis of the myth of George Washington and those people. But where's his one about the city?
Is that the same as the Fez hat, that?
No. This one here, you can see, we need a little refresher course on the Phrygian cap.
Hello, I'm going to do a video on the Phrygian cap. Now, the red cap, Papa Smurf, for instance, famously wears this cap. It's not referred to as a Phrygian cap, and most people wouldn't make the connection, but it's quite an old symbol, and it's still a very important symbol in the modern era. So first I'll go through some modern examples of it, and then we'll go back in time to its more ancient roots. So especially amongst peasants, the Phrygian cap has been a standard piece of apparel, but it has some very important connections to some very important movements, such as the French Revolution. So Victor Hugo, the author of Les Miserables, I put a Phrygian cap on the old dictionary. So especially Les Miserables was about the French Revolution and the turmoil at the time, and about the overthrow of the older nobility. And one of the most famous symbols of the French Revolution, as the single breast exposed, which is another common point, but she's also wearing the Phrygian cap, so this red cap with the rounded edge pointed there to the front. So the French Revolution, but will also across much of Europe now. Another extension of the French Revolution was this universal
so
declaration.
These are the Rosicrucians.
Apart from the all-seeing eye, and for instance, the
okay.
chains. The lady on the left holds a broken chain, but here we see on the tip of the spear the Phrygian cap again. So it's one of these symbols you will find quite commonly, and especially in connection to liberty movement. So this is Britannia, English, and this was for the commemoration of the abolishment of slavery. So once again, this freedom and liberation from slavery. And she as well has the red cap. So it's more than French, it's more than English. Again, it's quite ancient. And another, well, in the Americas, so we have Lady Liberty and the Phrygian cap once again. Now, the use of this, the female, or also the goddess as well, there's some connections to there, but they're a little bit extended. So I'm just going to go through the Phrygian cap and just sort of show the importance of it. So here we see like one version of the United States and Lady Liberty, and for instance, and it carried through. So, for instance, in World War One, but again, Phrygian cap, the red hat there. Especially in France and England, but especially in the Americas and the wider Americas, including the Caribbean and South America. But the United States Senate, we see there above the shield in the middle, again, the Phrygian cap. The United States Army, the shield again, we see again the Phrygian cap. So it's quite important in the institutions, important institutions in America. But for instance, on the lady on the left-hand side, she's holding the staff, and once again, the Phrygian cap is on top. This is the New York coat of arms, but Colombia coat of arms again, much like the French Revolution, we see.
Hey, Ella.
Yeah.
You know, this guy has obviously never heard of the Black Eyed Peas, because would we call that girl Friggy, or do we call her Fergie? It's the Phrygian cap. He's the only person I've ever heard that would call the Black Eyed Peas girl Friggy. Whatever, but he's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, I've seen it, but I never put the two and two together.
This guy's from
It sounds Australian or New Zealand.
New Zealand or even Tasmania. I'm not sure, but it's not Queensland.
He might be South Africa too, because South Africans sound like
he's definitely either New Zealand or Kiwi or something.
Mm.
See the Phrygian cap on the tip of the spear in the center. Cornucopia, you might notice as well. El Salvador is another one of these Central American and South American countries which has a Phrygian cap as a predominant symbol. Argentina, we'll count the sun rays, the shaking hands. These are all very esoteric symbols as well. In Nicaragua as well. So especially the Masonic influence through Central and Southern America, especially in connection to the liberation movements, is something that's quite strong. And in Haiti as well, we'll see the there in the center above the palm tree, again, the Phrygian cap, though it's blue tip on that one. Coat of arms in Bahamas, there behind at the very top.
Now, just to break in for a second, because for my theories, these all work in after reset. The non-rhesus blood type freakazoids told everybody, look, we've got the titles to everything here. You're this. Look, you're free now. And so we go, yay, we're free, this Phrygian cap. Now, the Bahamas coat of arms has the best Phrygian cap, because in my world, it also applies to that. The tip of this is the gallbladder, and this is hanging over the gut. And this is where I've postulated, but yet to prove, is the wireless brain in your tummy that communicates with your head, that sometimes you might have felt if you've jumped off a high dive and got a little tickle in your tummy.
Yep.
That's where it's connected, that right there.
Oh, right. And your gut feeds your brain. Without good gut bacteria and feeding your body, your body shuts down and, gets polluted.
Exactly. So that's why I think they chose the Phrygian cap. We show it as green when people nowadays use it to hide the pickle on their Christmas tree. But when they saw it in the stomach, it was usually post-mortem that's when they were doing all, that's why they were grave robbing. It had turned red by then is why they did. But I don't want to overload the new people with too much information, but it's a great example right there. And now that you look at it, this looks like that one thing in Turkmenistan that we're going to get back to that collects power, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, if it's Rosicrucians, it's their way of signs and symbols of showing what countries that they've taken over in the New World.
Right. And then they get their own, you dolphins think you're good. Well, we're the dolphins and the falcon in our conference, and the other people are the lion and the bear, and the other people are the griffins and the dodgers. It's all play the same. They're one-trick ponies once you get them figured out.
Oh yeah, and the
onward, upward together.
Yeah, and the Rosicrucians and the Freemasons joined on the 25th of June, 1725, I think it was.
Well, what a coincidence.
Yeah.
Let's listen. Let's finish this off.
Top.
We got to get back to the girl because I just wanted to be like, I was looking for my friend. How do we end up listening to this girl? He's not really my friend because he got so fascinated with the Masons. He doesn't love the Bible. Now he just kind of worships the Masons because he thinks they're the greatest at math. Unfortunately, he chose math as his god.
No, yeah.
Did that wrong.
Of the shield, again, the sun rays, these other points which are standard occult symbols. The Paraguay Supreme Court, so again, Phrygian cap, and this is on the reverse of the Supreme Court seal. In Cuba, so it's carried through later, so into the Castro period as well, but again, Phrygian cap, now that's the fasces, the bundle of sticks, which is a symbol of order, but the region of Cuba, Camagüey, coat of arms again, Phrygian cap and the fasces. Peso coins for Mexican, and again the sun rays, the laurels, and many other points. But again, this Phrygian cap being an important recurring theme, especially across all the Americas, and freedom from slavery and freedom from larger governments. However, this is just the modern era. This symbol actually goes back quite some time indeed. And we'll have a look at that now. The Phrygian cap, you'll find it going back through the centuries, especially in places like Sicily, where it's connected to peasant movements, or might call them proto-democratic movements, but it really carries through. So, for instance, the three wise men, or the Magi, at the church in Ravenna, Italy, we see them approaching with the Phrygian cap, but they're from the east. This is a strong connection. So Helen and Paris of Troy, now he's commonly shown wearing a Phrygian cap as well. And this is important because the region of Phrygia, as I'll show in a second, very much the Anatolian part of the world. So Phrygian man, again, with Phrygian cap. So Phrygia was actually a region, so it's not just the name of the cap, it's one of the dominating regions in the Greek and Roman periods, for instance. And so we see a map, which is a basic outline of the Phrygian region. And
you see, I paused it too late, but the map's right where we're talking. That's why, if everybody's wondering, we are staying on topic, kind of.
Yeah.
And this is Attis, so one of the gods of that region, and he was the consort of Sybil. And again, we'll see him very much like Helen and Paris, but the Phrygian cap. So this relief is doesn't show in quite so much detail. So here's a diagram sketch of that same relief, just so you can get a clearer idea. And again, these standard symbols throughout the rest of the relief as well. So it goes back quite some time. And
Wow. If you let your imagination run wild in that sketch,
Yep.
it almost looks like a Satan type whispering to this, say, hey, honey, you can taste this. It's yummy.
Mm.
Something. But then again, I've been told I have an overactive imagination.
No, it's not. That's a good thing.
Relief as well. So it goes back quite some time. Now, the Amazons, or the barbarians, the people to the north and to the east of the classical Greek times, they very much wore the Phrygian cap, but more than that, they also made Phrygian helmets. So from copper and bronze, quite a few examples left of these. So it was not just the soft felt.
That's just as stupid as the spike on the German helmet, Surplufris. How would it help you hide? How would it not just give you an extra target? How would it help you crawl? You know, this round is so you could crawl underneath something, but it's still, you couldn't back up very well crawling. So it's stupid.
Yep.
Hat or a woolen hat. There are more than a few metal versions and quite some quality as well. So it would have been also worn in battle. And the Amazons, barbarians, one who does not speak Greek, will of course were famous for that in the older histories. But I think, listen, one of the most important connections are the Mithraic cult. So Mithras was born from a stone, and more often than not, you'll see him wearing the Phrygian cap from birth. In Greco-Roman times, especially, the Phrygian cap was connected with free slaves, but as we see, it actually goes back earlier. Sazabios, the sky god of the Phrygian, so in places like Phrygia, Dacia, Thrace, they were all wearing Phrygian caps, so it's not really restricted to the region of Phrygia. Now we also have standard Mithraic relief. So the standard design you see in connected to Mithras is this young man pulling the bull's head back, about to slaughter. And you'll always see that him and those around him are wearing these Phrygian caps. So it's got to do with also to the origins of where these Mithraic cults came from, and you'll find that if you look into them, you'll see how much of the
in case this doesn't work, those two guys, keep your swords and hammers real close. You know, that's what I'm reading into that one. You know, I'm going to go for it. In case it doesn't work, kill this son of a gun.
Yeah.
Catholic early Christians is built around Mithraic
Hey,
rituals.
look at that guy, man. The guy on the lower right, he's definitely using something like to heat that pot. You know, it looks like to me anyway, or something.
Yeah, it looks like a bolt of electricity or something.
That's a glittering sword right there. What the heck is going on here? They did have these little demigod things trying to run things, and they just screwed it up everything.
Yeah.
Practices and symbolism, it's quite extraordinary. So the Thracian goddess Bendis, she was the goddess of the moon.
See,
goddess of
he pronounces everything else right.
Hunt, which is the exact equivalent of Artemis or Diana, the goddess of the moon, the goddess of the hunt as well, the connection with the dogs as well. So here we see another Mithraic, a couple of Mithraic boards and comparisons, just so you see the moon goddess, sun goddess, the Hermes mercurial figure with the Kundalini, or the Caduceus as it's called, the two snakes. Now, there's at the very bottom in the center, you can also see the snakes. So that was one of the important rituals connected to the Mithraic cults as well. But so again, Bendis, the Thracian goddess of the moon and the hunt, wearing a Phrygian cap, and later depictions of these Mithraic reliefs still have Artemis, but they're now in a more of a Roman Greco style. So the Phrygian cap predates the freed slaves era. So most definitions will connect this cap to the Romans, and freed slaves actually goes back Further than that, it goes back to the people of Phrygia and around that region, which are loosely called the barbarians, Amazons, etc. But more than that, it's not just the cap.
Man, that's a busy picture.
Lots in it.
Look at it. It's got Dorian, Lydian, and Ionian, which are their version of what we consider Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian capitals, the different levels that they put on top of the pillars. You know, the Corinthians have the acanthus plants and are highly engraved. There's one, the Ionic, and it just has, it's like an open book and it's just set on a book. And then the Dorians just have a box, but then they relate it to music and everything, which you can see that I'll run my mouse over. These are your basic trivium. This is the lowest form of logic, and it applies to music. And that's so what this is from wherever he got this picture is these were, and I don't know it well enough of whether it's 440 or 432, but it looks like 440 the way it's coming up over the 7th line here. I just don't know.
Well,
I don't know how to say Phrygian anymore. I could just have made it Phrygian because I heard too many Black Eyed Peas songs when we were members at all those amusement parks and 6 Day Over America and whatever where the roller coasters were. They played that Fergie all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a busy picture. I don't know what they have gone on over here. Some giantess. Isis. I've heard of Kirchner, but I don't remember why. I think that's Ashton Kirchner's grandfather. Oh, that's Athanasius. That's that he can't. He's a guy that doesn't know how to translate the Bible.
Oh, okay.
Kircher, for instance, or the musical mode. So we have the Doric and Ionic, very much connected to Freemasons, but you also have the Phrygian, Mixolydian, and the Locrian. So it's also, the Phrygian cap is also connected to music, and we saw the guides and goddesses of sun, moon, and sky. And so it's more than Papa Smurf, it's more than freed Roman slaves. It's it's got quite some interesting history, and it's been important enough that it's been repeated through places such as the French Revolution, the abolishment of slavery in Britain, and up to the American period such as Lady Liberty. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it and have a good one.
Slavery was never ended, but that's the thing.
Yeah. So this is the most important ley lines in the world here. And they got free there. You know, I thought we had the best country in the world, but so they must suck.
Yeah, well, to have everyone living duty free and everything, there's more to this place than what they're saying. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I bet you they don't let their people stay out on the streets doing heroin like they do in Philadelphia.
Oh, they wouldn't need to. Do you know what I mean? They have everything they need. They wouldn't need to, be numbing themselves from the pain they're suffering. They wouldn't be in that pain that the other people are suffering.
Let's refresh our memory with the ghost city of Ashgabat.
These things that exist on top of this building are just for decor. These domes around here, this is just for decor. The separation between the dirty water and the clean water, that's just for decor. All right, again, we have here what looks like a type of mosque, a type of religious building, and it's a power plant. It's got all the signs of a power plant, and it even is surrounded by, you see it, cooling ponds right there. Now you'll notice that everything is done in white marble.
Wow.
And that is because the president that started this country imported all of this white marble from Italy because it keeps the inside of the buildings cool out there in the desert. So they have to use even less of their wonderful free energy. And also, again, notice the point.
I just think that let that be all to all those younger people out there, like they're just getting started in their 20s and 30s, and maybe their children are just 2 or 3 years old. Remember, no matter how much mammon you get, it's always good to be frugal.
Yeah.
This guy's got all the money in the world, but he's got all the free energy, but he doesn't want to waste it.
That's right. Yeah.
Be a good steward. God will bless it. Even if, you reap what you sow. When you're even before, God changes your heart and stuff like that. You're still, if you're unsaved, and you'll still be blessed if you go and, work hard and do good,
Yeah.
Hats off to this guy. Way to go and save that free energy. It's a nice building.
It is.
At the top of the building. That isn't just decoration. This is the city's stadium.
Dang.
And people that visit this in the daytime.
It's a seahorse.
People, vloggers with their camera, especially if they're tourists from America, they'll upload videos to YouTube and saying like, oh, there's nobody here and everything's so clean and nobody's ever been here and this is all fake and this is all staged. But the truth is that 90% of the population is employed by the government and they do a lot of cleaning and upkeeping, and that's their job. And I explained to you why they aren't out in the daytime. They have a lot of nightlife because it's so hot in the daytime. They're in the desert. And I want everybody to take note to the points on pretty much every pillar on this building. It has a very nice, distinct point going all the way around. All the points are there. Very interesting. And yes, it does look very desolate in the daytime. It does, absolutely. But there are plenty of pictures of them using it at nighttime. Looks pretty fucking lively to me. Looks pretty prosperous to me. In fact, that's their whole philosophy is to be prosperous and healthy and peaceful. And they're not, protesting or breaking windows. No, they're cleaning windows. They're building things. They've built this since 1991. They've built this since some of you were born.
You
get home from work and they go, how was it today? Oh, baby, I cleaned those streets like there was no tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, then let's go party.
Yeah.
I imagine, yay.
Be nice to be there, but yeah.
Nice.
I mean, it'd be older than the 90s, you know what I mean? Because my cousin was working there in the mid 90s. So.
Right. Maybe they just started that stadium in 91.
Probably, yeah.
That's not a seahorse. That's a regular horse or something sitting down.
Looks similar to the one at China and other places. It looks like an eye from above,
Right. Right. It would. It would. That horse reminds me of the devil horse at the Denver airport.
Yeah. Yeah.
Blucifer, they called it. Yuccifer.
What have you accomplished? He's been accomplishing this. Just looking at this makes me feel like a loser. I can't even believe someone has accomplished something this amazing. And they're harvesting free energy and they're giving it to their people. That's pretty incredible. Now, we take a really good look at this picture of Ashgabat at nighttime, and we see it lit up kind of like Las Vegas. I want you to notice in the back where there are these consistent lights. This is a walkway. This is I believe it's 8 kilometers, don't quote me on that, but I believe it's an 8 kilometer long walkway for the people to enjoy for their health. Again, the country does do so much with free energy. They have so much money. They're so prosperous that they don't have to profit off of illness. They don't have to profit off of poverty. They don't have poverty. Like people that go there from America that vlog, they're like, where are all the people? What do you mean? The vagrants, the homeless people, the rioters? Is that what you're talking about? Because they don't exist there. The country has no crime, no poverty, no homeless people. Okay, again, this is one of the presidential buildings, and you'll notice that the buildings with the gold domes that are doing a lot of the power making, the fountains and the ponds in front of them are a little bit dingy. They're definitely not just for decor. They're being used as cooling ponds. Again, here's a distinct difference between the colors of the water. This one on the right looks like it's doing a lot of cooling and it's actually functioning, and the ones on the left are looks like they're more for appearances. Now, if you were thinking that this country sounds fantastic and you want to move there, I don't believe that you can't. I don't believe they accept any type of immigration, and it's really hard to even get in for a visit. And the reason I believe they don't do that is because I'm not sure they want to water down their culture. And you wouldn't be able to take your dog for a walk in this park because dogs aren't allowed. The city is clean because you are not allowed to smoke in it and you are not allowed to have a dog in it. And these strict rules are what keep people thinking that this is a terrible country and it's oppressive and it's awful. But they don't make...
That sounds terrible to me. I would never live there. Not in a
Yeah.
minute.
Well, that's what I said. He married this woman that was there, and he had to convert religion, and yeah, all kinds of stuff.
You know, it's like they hold it out like it's an Elysium, a Wizard of Oz type place where, you know, oh, if we only had that, it'd be perfect. But at what cost to make those changes to an existing society? How could even a country as relatively small as, let's say, France change at this point?
Oh, France has been ruined. It was much more beautiful, you know, around the last century. It's just been destroyed. Everything.
I don't know if you saw it. Let's just finish this off. 2 minutes.
Make their women wear face masks. They don't make anybody dress like beekeepers. They don't oppress their women. They do not divide their culture with racism. They do not divide their culture with sexism and promote that. They have a very peaceful culture that they love very much. And it just seems to be very interesting to me that we're told that China is a communist country and that's what's wrong with China. Yet China is technically a capitalist country, and there's a lot wrong. And if you know what I'm talking about, you'll know that I talk a lot about what's going on in Hong Kong and poverty in general, homelessness in general. It bothers me, it plagues me, and I'm always trying to find a solution and get to the root of the problem. And I feel like this lost technology, or hidden technology, I should say, is keeping people impoverished. You don't have the right to own a gun if you were to visit Ashgabat. You don't have that right. But you also don't need a gun because nobody's trying to rob you because they have what they need. And I guess the moral of the story is you can be a peaceful nation and not go to war with other nations if you are...
I got to see this.
I don't mean to get too riled up over some fucking camping and survival food, but you guys, I'm a little pissed off. And I thought I'd make another one of these videos because I've come home from my camping trip just to find out that I'm eating, or was going to be eating, black goo. And I thought, obviously, this has the black goo, and I'm putting this in the video because this is a long time learned lesson of fortified craps known as noodles. However, that's my other video. Go watch that. This is a new motherfucker. Holy crap. I thought, oh my god, this is so cute. Mountain house. I'm going to take this on my camping trip. Look, it's beef stew. And I thought it was really fantastic because I was like, look at that. It doesn't have any of those, like, little crap things in it, and no fortification. How awesome. But then I saw, what is that? Pyrophosphate? And that's inside the main ingredient. And I was like, what in the fuck is that? What are they fucking feeding me? Sure enough, guys, it's black goo. Ferric pyrophosphate, used as a nutrient and or dietary supplement in animal drugs and feeds. Now listen, guys, you gotta remember, listen. They know that the people that buy the survival foods and the camping foods are not taking the unspeakable. So they are loading it up with that. Make sure you read your labels and don't eat the black goo.
Ella Rose, what in the world?
Well, see, I stopped eating cereals about 20 years ago when I found out they actually put metal iron scrapings into the food. And now people are finding out that by, putting water in it, putting it in a bag and then letting it soak and then putting a magnet in it, they're finding it. And they've been doing it with medicine and all sorts of stuff. And they're finding all these little bits of metal in their food. I can't eat a lot of food because of this. I've seen a lot of way things are made, and yeah.
Well, we should be wary because of now that we realize that we are battery powered magnets spinning in an Amelina vortex of a Mobius strips gone crazy. They can use batteries and magnetic waves. Once they get enough of your blood magnetized with iron, what they're doing, possibly, hypothetically, I'm not a doctor, but they could be stacking blood cells and causing people to get heart disease, and then they get blood clots and die from myocarditis.
Well, that's what they think happened with that Astro World Festival. As soon as the speakers ramped up, people just started dropping like flies. I think it was frequencies,
Frequencies, we all seen those videos where they can make those things bounce and go crazy.
Yeah.
So it's been going nuts. But anyway, you got anything? Because basically that was my whole show. I'm out of bullets here. I don't have anything. No more surprises today.
It's okay. It's just good to catch up with you.
Right. It was so good. And trust me, I know that, I'm not done with this stuff here. I've been looking for a while for the documentation in the Constitution where, I can prove now that, people had to swear there wasn't a violent or nonviolent or no group. You have to sign this affidavit that this government's not been taken over, or you don't get paid. So that's in the mix now. And as it stood before, what else do we need to, all anybody can do, and I encourage you and all the other content providers, is let's just keep going because they did it. They're trying to kill us.
Yeah, there's more info out there, I just haven't had time lately to do anything. Do you know what I mean? Just been spending time with Dad.
Oh, I can't imagine, right? It's been really busy. So if you don't mind, then while we're wrapping up here, you do me the honor of closing us in prayer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. I just want to say to the Lord Jesus, I'd like to ask for your blessings and help and all these and wisdom to help people see the truth in this world, to be with those people that are feeling lost and lonely, to let them know that they're not alone, that there is pain and suffering, that this is all part of what we must go through to advance. So let these people know, Lord Jesus, that they are loved and that they are wanted and that they are not alone in this world, Lord Jesus. Just be with them, Lord Jesus. Just carry them like you have been carrying them. They will see soon enough, Lord Jesus. I just ask you to place a barrier of protection around everyone in this group that is feeling isolated, alone, depressed, and cast it out, Lord Jesus. I just ask you to raise them up, lift them up, Lord Jesus. And just show them that you are the way, the light, and you're the only way to get to the Father in heaven, Lord Jesus. And I just want to thank you for bringing me in touch with all of these beautiful people. In Jesus' name, I bless you, Lord Jesus, as you bless us. Thank you. Amen.
Amen. I couldn't have said it better myself. And for Ella and Ashley, I'd like to just remind you, it's a flat earth nation. Mud flood was Armageddon. We're never going to tell you anything else. Why would we? We're trying to prove that we have your best interest at heart. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho.